I need another heavy. I've got TB and a quick draw.
I'm gonna get fairly tight to it. Now, anybody who's gonna be working range, I'm gonna need you to fade right on this. If anybody's running short, is gonna stay towards the top of the caldera if we're gonna come at them.
I have you in the Griffin.
Sounds good.
Well, that's the thing. We gotta get to brawling range, so I may be moving us right up to the hoop if we have to.
Wolverine nach Charlie 4.
It's fine, chill the f*** out, man. It's fine, it's just a 5-starter.
Komm, Leute, redet miteinander.
15 seconds. Yeah, exactly. Don't die. 15 seconds, don't die. Guys. 3, 2, 1. Charlie Jar, CT, yellow. Okay, go to Charlie, see if we can get it there. To your left, there's a... Sorry, shoot.
So, jetzt guys, hinter die Indie-Pockets,
Mediums be prepared to pull back E40 towards the E5 border. On my mark.
Left side, come on! Like now, I need strikes on OP barrel. Wire are strikes up.
Die Hauptgruppe rechts, Uferlinie.
They have 3 mechs sitting on the left side when you pass over.
Overheating is bad.
Both legs on the Griffin. Get the Griffin.
Oh, sorry about that. That was such a
That's all right. I'm gonna spawn Lance, you guys in Charlie. Lance, you guys in Bravo. That's B2C1.
This third drop is 2 lights, 2 mediums, 2 heavies, 2 assaults.
Leute in die Breite, zieht euch in die Breite.
Lights, watch our backs. We're gonna about base and take up position in Bravo 6.
Ja, kurz Aufschaltung, Delta 4, 3 Stück, 2 Mediums einleiten, wie ich es richtig gesehen habe.
Make a firing line. C4 Tactical Hill, boys. Fox.
Lauft unter ECM, hab 2 durchlaufen, 10 Bravo 4.
And get ready to hit people coming from our right. Charlie on the left. Charlie, a Hellbringer on the left. Okay, let's group up towards the left. We're gonna press through Bravo 3 to Bravo 4. I think they're kind of spread out. Check yourselves. Make sure you've got, UAV cool shot. Here they come. They're pushing hard, guys.
Deco. Tez on.
Go. Oh, got a contact here, Bravo 3. Nice, Marshall. I'm on Delta Griffin. Well, you cross it then. Get in their face. They got a highlighter, they just push up on Theta. We need help on Theta. Up on Theta. Yep, that's the noise. Go. Let's finish this. Full pressure, guys. Full pressure. They're down low. They're down low in Charlie 3. Get the f***ing arm, Jackson.
Jackson, cool shot.
Golf. I got him.
Okay,
Go, P3, go.
Echo, go.
Get over your medium, guys. Get Echo Stormcrow. God, I suck as a pilot, but thank I packed my skill. I'm sorry that you died, sweet girls, but we will send a reasonably nice letter to your family.
Greetings, Mech Warriors. My name is Bandit B17. How's it going? You are watching New Year in the Inner Sphere Exhibition Series. This is the Pregame Roundtable. We have a match tonight between 228 Blackwatch and Steel Jaguar Gaming. That will be starting in about an hour, so we thought we'd get started right now with a little bit of a discussion and just see, with some members of the community, the competitive community, the current state of the game, and what we think we can look forward to. So, with me, of course, I have MDM0. Say hi, MD.
Hi, guys.
And Vonka from Rising Storm.
Hello.
Sirathrax, you may know him from Reddit. Did I pronounce your name right?
You did.
Awesome. Thank you. He is a Reddit moderator and I believe former member of Steel Jaguar. And former player of the game, but maybe coming back. And excellent. That's good. Awesome. And then, of course, Rithen from Imperial. Like I said before, I'm Bandit-P17. I'm a member of the Marine Mechs, and we have been playing competitively for quite a while now. Last season we were in Division A MRBC in Season 6, and looking forward to Season 7 MRBC, and continuing to play competitively and everything like that. Vonka, you were in Rising Storm. You guys were with us in Division A MRBC. What did you think of last season? Awesome. And Rithen, I'm sure you guys are looking forward to this recently announced tournament for the PGI announced and stuff. You guys probably have your sights set on that, right?
We'll see, depending on how it is.
Gotcha. Okay, let me fix that. Bear with me a moment. Thanks to everybody for chiming in there. Go ahead and try talking, guys.
Testing 1 2.
Okay, that should be significantly better, I think. Cool. All right. Well, let's get right into it then. First, I guess let's talk about one of the most recent things that happened to the game, the Steam release. I'm sure a lot of us have been seeing the impact of the Steam release. We've been seeing a lot of new players around, a lot of new streamers around, and things like that. Hopefully, everybody in the community has been reaching out to these players and assisting them. All of the veterans offering advice and things like that. Just embracing these new players and trying to preserve their interest in the game so they can continue playing and things like that. But one of the things that, as a competitive player, I'm interested in is not just necessarily building the player base for the game, but also building the player base of people who are interested in playing in competition. So I guess the question I want to toss out to you guys, what do you think that we can do to try and attract more people to competitive play?
Well, I'm going to jump in here real quick. The first thing I think you can do is turn your mic down.
Just did that.
It's so loud.
Hopefully that sounds better.
But I mean, I think the biggest thing with the Steam release, there's so many people hopefully joining the game, that might have never even played MechWarrior before, and they might not realize just the variety, right, of leagues that exist in MechWarrior for various community-run things. I know we mentioned it really briefly, but like MRBC, a personal favorite of mine. But then also like the introduction of MBT, which is a completely different approach to play. So, I mean, there's our Run How to Die 4v4 leagues and things. There's just a lot of different stuff to go on, and I really hope the new players, as they kind of join and get used to the game, can learn kind of like there's different ways to bring out some of the different sort of gameplay, different things to enjoy, on the competitive scene.
I think it was cool that PGI started to publicize some of the community-run events, because unless you're going to build a bridge from the new players in the game to the competitive leagues, I was playing this game for quite a while before I even realized that there was a competitive scene going on. So I think that continuing to publicize that is a huge step moving forward.
And it is kind of necessary for player retention to get people into groups, to get people into sort of active, organized play. Not necessarily competitive, but at the very minimum, a group. I came from background playing EVE a long time ago. I beat the game. I managed to put it down and walk away. but one of the big research things that CCP did was finding out that the players who joined the group stayed on average 18 months or something like that longer than people who just tried to go it alone, and then left. Now, granted, EVE is a very different game. It's much more reliant on organizations for success, but that same sort of social ability is transferable, I think, to any game.
The biggest problem right now is that it's a niche thing right now because it's not advertised. Major League MechWarrior was probably the one that got the most, I guess, stuff on the MechWarrior, webpage and stuff like that. And then two, a lot of teams, they're intimidated. They say, well, what's the point if I get in when I'm going to face these guys that have been playing for 2-3 years on end? That's the one thing that MRBC does right, is that they allow teams of different divisions to play each other, so they do have a chance. This game, it's almost as difficult as World of Tanks to get into competitive. It's just that there's a lot of grinding, a lot of time and effort going in. So if it's stuff that's more resources that's given to the new player, and more regular broadcasting of these matches and all that. So I mean, you watch tape, you watch videos of these people play, you learn. It's one of the best ways to learn. So if PGI themselves, if they actually take a huge step and they actually start supporting this competitive, outlet and all that, not only they're going to see, more people, actually playing the game, but they're going to see, more longevity for their future. Any of these games, like Counter-Strike or whatever, they have, good support, from Valve and all that.
I agree with that completely. I mean, they have new things that they've introduced in recent patches, like the news that's actually in the game now. It's not just on the play button screen. You actually in the game, you have the news pops up now. And, they could, if they would make the community-run events a large part of that, and start to really, they've taken steps to start to understand the competitive league. They entered a team into this last season of MRBC, which was really awesome. And I think that if the competitive community reaches out to them, and I think that if they're receptive, I think that relationship can just continue to build. But I think that they need a more dedicated community spotlight on things that the community is doing, and I think that can engage players, because the game is a grind if you play it by yourself, and you can get bored pretty easy just playing solo. But playing with groups that have a similar goal, for whether it's just getting together and having fun, or you guys want to be very CW based, or you guys are competitive, getting together with a similar minded group I know for Rising Storm has really kept a lot of us playing this game, and so it's just good for everybody.
Absolutely.
Bandit, give me 1 second. I want to jump in on what Ruben said there earlier. He mentioned, I think, something that I just want to kind of repeat and fill in on a little bit for any new players who might be interested in this. Mentioned MRBC and their divisions. I just want to kind of expand on that a little bit. MRBC is a competitive league that introduces new teams to the league by putting them in essentially a division with, as best as I can determine, teams, basically similar teams with similar experience. So if you're a new team, you might join in Division D or E, and then when you win your division each season, you kind of bump up the progression to the next higher division. And I think that's one thing, like Rhythm says, they do a really good job of allowing new teams to join and experience competitive play, without going up against SRS or EMP or, SJR, a team that clearly has a lot more experience and more experienced players with it. So it's a good thing for new players to check out if they're interested in that.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about it too is it gives you a goal. When you're among teams that are kind of on your same skill level, you feel really awesome when you work up to the point where you start to place in your division and stuff like that and move up the ladder, and you have those goals that you can meet every step of the way, instead of it just being a win everything or nothing kind of situation, like a maybe a ladder match or something like that. I mean, I know from our team's perspective, we felt great when we won Div E. We felt great when we won Div D, and we started becoming better at the game and more cohesive as a unit and things like that, and started climbing. And that experience alone was fantastic, and I love things like that help you start up. And I do think MRBC is definitely a good stepping stone for a newer team, and hopefully we'll see a lot more new teams out there, especially with the Steam release. There's a lot, an increased talent pool of players coming in. Not many of them right now, I think, know there is a competitive scene yet. So hopefully we can, like you said, PGI, if they embrace the competitive scene and work with us. They've been doing a lot better, like you said. They did have a team in MRBC that was fantastic, and they even advertised this event, which isn't even actually technically a comp match. This is more of a, it's an exhibition thing. There's nothing to win here. This is two teams that are just trying to get prepared for the future, and that's it's great that that they are starting to reach out to us, and I'd love to see them continue doing that.
If they continue posting up these things or whatever, I mean, just simply as an entertainment value, you're gonna see more people watching, and just more and more are gonna catch on to it. Because when you get two teams that are actually, they're close and still together or whatever, it's really entertaining to watch. Because they may know something, or they may, do something differently than you, and you watch it, and you pick up on these things. Really, no two teams, in this game, they play alike. Everyone, they have their own play styles and all that, and you can see that, especially with these top tier teams, that they like to play in certain play styles, and they're, top tier players. They continually perform certain habits. And I mean, this is, again, it's as a new player, I can watch it and learn from it.
Absolutely. And we can't just put everything on PGI either. Another big facet of this, and something that I think we are good at, is the competitive community itself really has to continue to reach out to new players and introduce them to comp and things like that. And I know, Riven, you recently made a post on Reddit that it seemed extremely popular, and I know that I appreciated being able to read through some of that stuff. The higher tier players reaching out to new players and trying to teach them the ropes and introduce them to what this game has to offer. And I know that EMP also does that with the Church of Skill. I think you guys do that every Sunday, where players at any skill level, I think, can come by and play.
Yeah, it's every Sunday. They set a time. Normally they put it on Reddit, but anyone is welcome in. They usually start off with some group queue, and then they do private in-house lobbies. So, and it teaches, hey, this is what you need to be doing, this is where you need to go, this is not how you need to play the mech. Because playing a pug match and a competitive match is this night and day difference.
Absolutely. It sounds to me like that would be a great way for anybody who is interested in competitive to really get a good leap forward in their game knowledge and their skill level to be able to be an effective player on a comp team and start getting into some of these matches. So, as for... Oh, go ahead, Vonka.
I would say, well, one of the things is this community is really, really good. I mean, compared to a lot of other games, I mean, if somebody is out there looking for help or asking questions, I mean, the way the community's responded to the Steam release, I think, has been overwhelmingly positive. So I think that, just allowing opportunities and continue to do what we're doing will make a lot of them feel like this is something good,
Absolutely. Okay, so with that said, we talked a lot about MRBC and stuff like that, but there are other tournaments out there right now, and a lot of us have participated in those as well. I know, Vonka, you definitely have. One of the other leagues out there is NBT, and this is truly a very different flavor of league to MRBC right now. I would say it's almost like Risk in Space, where when you are fighting each other, you're not just fighting to win, but there's actually a penalty to losing some of your mechs. You have a reason to stay alive. You have a reason to kill the enemy. What did you think about NBT during their inaugural season?
Well, Bandit, I think you still need to turn down your mic. That's what I'm reading in the chat. So
awesome.
Take a second and adjust that. You're just getting a little bit more excited here, talking louder.
All right.
NBT was a whole lot of fun. It offers opportunity for units that want to play the game a little bit differently, because it has sort of a community warfare feel to it. But it does some things that MechWarrior can't do, like allow individual units to take hold of certain factions and to make decisions. It was really enjoyable, and they're doing a lot of improvement to it. I know Xavier and the Tundra and the guys over there are working really hard to polish up the interface, make it more user-friendly. And, for teams that might be interested in a more casual, quote, casual competitive play, there's a lot of different opportunities for teams of all different skill levels within NBT, and so I think it's a really, really fun thing.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that it was very fun. It really is kind of a player-run league in that you create your own story. You don't have to follow a set of guidelines of who you're supposed to attack and why and things like that. By the way, how's my volume sound at this point? Feel free to toss that out there. But you don't have to. You don't have to make friends with the people it's expected of you to make friends with. You don't have to make enemies with the people it's expected of you to make enemies. You can really write your own story, form alliances, form new friendships, and go out there and fight each other as a unit. And every match you fight matters, and things like that. And even the matches you lose, because it really is an attrition game, you can do some significant damage to the infrastructure and the inventory of an enemy team to start driving them down. What do you think about some of the changes that they proposed for this next upcoming season? Namely, instead of having the entire inner sphere where each planet is its own thing, dividing it up into clusters of planets to try and speed up the game. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, it not only speeds up the game, but it simplifies the management a little bit. The old game and old rules are really based off of other MW or MechWarrior games, and so they're modernizing it a little bit for MechWarrior Online. And I mean, I think that having things be more impactful and having things be more scarce will make it a lot more intense and a lot more enjoyable. Decisions will impact things a lot more, I think, and so I think it's going in the right direction. I'm excited to try it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I want to jump in there too. I thought one of the really interesting things about MBT, and it sort of kind of took drop deck building to the next level, right? And usually in a competitive match, you want to make sure you build the right drop deck for the map, what you're experiencing things. With MBT, you're restricted. You want to build the right drop deck for a potential map that you might be dropping on for a particular planet based off of kind of what sort of terrain that planet might expect to have. But the other aspect of it is you need to make sure that you're dropping with mechs that your faction currently has. And you also have to consider, what happens if this match doesn't go as well as we thought it would. Are we going to lose all of our best mechs in one go-round? Do we want to save some for later? In case we lose them, do we want to raid this planet in order to try and get some mechs because we need some better mechs, or we want to go get some clan mechs, so let's go hit a clan planet? It kind of adds that additional keep track of your resources, keep track of what mechs you have, how much money you have, things, and it just kind of takes some of the things that you might already be doing in a competitive league and kind of raises it to another level. It's pretty fun.
Yep, and one of the changes that they announced too that just came to mind is that it seems to me like they're going to set it up where when you invade a sector, it's going to actually be multiple simultaneous battles. Before, when you were doing, say, like a 5-drop guerrilla raid, if you lost all your best mechs on drop 1, it screwed you over for the rest of the drops, and you really had to kind of plan ahead. But at the same token, you never wanted to plan to lose drop 1 or anything like that, so you really put your best stuff forward, and so you saw things go sour very quickly if you lose the first drop. What they're doing now, apparently, is I believe they're planning on making it so you kind of have to plan out 5 simultaneous drop decks, and the mechs that die there, I mean, you have to bring enough mechs to fill all of those 5 drops from start to finish. You can't like take the alive mechs from this battle and move them over to this battle. You have to plan for 20, well, it's 8-man drops if they keep doing that. Then you have to plan for 40 mechs, essentially. You can obviously bring a few less, but that's going to be interesting too, because it's nice, it simplifies things so you're not like, oh shit, we lost all of our fire starters, now what are we going to do? And you come up with an emergency deck. You can plan ahead of time, so it almost seems like this battle can almost be won in the planning stages now, and then you go out there and actually fight it and see how it goes, you know?
Well, to keep things a little bit more simple, I think one of the biggest changes that they're making is the way that the automation works. One of the biggest complaints they had were not all teams has somebody who wants to be, on the automation and messing with it, and so some teams want it a lot more simple, and they're creating a system where teams can take as much of a role as they want to, and the automation will really be simple, and I think that will keep a lot more people involved and do a lot more for the league. Moving forward, I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that will actually impact it.
Absolutely, and my chief complaint was the amount of time it took between drops, especially when you win, and you're waiting for the other team to just kind of come up with something. That really slowed things down, but I think this is definitely going to speed it up and make it a lot more accessible to more people. You could potentially do more drops in one night. I know they were talking about potentially even doing 7 drops in one night, and if you have all that spreadsheeted out right away, and you don't have to sit there and substitute pilots that have certain mechs, I could see that actually happening. And being able to rapid fire drops would be pretty exciting. So, with that said, how about the last balance pass? They did this just before the Steam release. They made some sweeping changes to a lot of the mechs to try and bring things a little bit closer together. We saw a lot of survivability added to some of the IS mechs. They introduced the speed penalties and things like that to clan mechs when they lose one of their side torsos. Rythan, I'd be interested to see or to hear what you think about the current balance pass. Do you feel it's balanced? Do you feel they could do more? And just touch on that a little bit.
The only thing that this balance pass did is it brought the top tier IS mechs versus, or the ones that were heavily quirked, in lines with the top tier clan mechs. It's still the same thing. The wheel has just turned. What was good before is now crap. What was crap is now better. So nobody would have taken an Atlas before. Now it's one of the most god mode assaults, especially in group queue. So you still have a handful of mechs that you can use. The rest are just dumpster. So it's, in all honesty, in my eyes, it hasn't changed. Laser Vomit is still predominant. Gauss is not as good as it was before. So you don't have like Laser Gauss, Direwolf, and all that.
Well, they're toning it down though.
Well, down, but the thing is that now it's still 5 seconds. So it's the Direwolf. That used to be the god of assaults. Nothing could stand up to it. So now it's we're stuck in a position where I got in an argument with Sean Lang about this or whatever, and I told him there was an easy way to balance it than changing these, the heat values and all that and whatever they've done. There's no algorithm or, code or whatever that's going to say, oh, hey, this is what this mech, the quirks should be. It actually needs somebody who's actually played this game, and they need to go through with every mech and say, this is what the weaknesses are, this is what the strengths are, this is how we can balance it. Now, not every mech is going to be competitive, Okay, but you can at least take it into a pug match and say, hey, I'm going to be a threat, on the battlefield. Whereas it's still, take maybe, a dozen mechs, the rest of them are just, subpar. You're just gimping yourself.
I am going to 100% throw my endorsement behind Rhythm and everything he said. Because it's sort of the thing that's been, even from back in my day, on the Bittervet quotient, where we need somebody whose job is just to do this, to do the balance, and to do it frequently and iteratively.
Well,
instead of
yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just
Amen.
these sweeping changes once per year.
Preach it, Siri. Well, I think
that's the thing. That's the problem.
Well, one
Go
thing
ahead.
too. I mean, excuse me. I mean, the one thing is that some things look good on paper until you actually get in them and try them, and so, that goes back to the whole paper argument on certain quirks making some mechs better. I was really curious, for example, what was going to happen with the Thunderbolt 5S, and but even with the quirks it got, the crazy large laser quirks, it didn't make that much of a difference to make that mech an optimal choice over another mech, and I think that's a large part of this. I mean, there has to be input. I mean, when there has to be somebody at PGI or somebody they reach out to that actually plays the game regularly, and they can be across any skill spectrum really, because they have to balance this game not only for tier 1 but tier 5. But they really do need to start taking player input and start when it comes to these balance changes, more than just throwing up a forum post and asking a question about it, but actually, like you said, taking these methodical, slow change approach to visually see the differences and the changes in the mechs. They're probably never going to make every mech useful. That's not going to happen, but they can certainly increase diversity. And I'll say one more thing. Because of the types of mechs that were changed recently, I will say this: the diversity has increased. So, even though this is the wheel turning, it's turning, but it's slightly better. I mean, it's not like it was. It's a little bit better, but it still has a long way to go.
Well, diversity has increased maybe because of SRMs have been changed.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right.
So, but in the case of, let's think of what Inner Sphere assaults that are good. The Battlemaster has pretty much taken over the role of the Stalker because of the structure quirks and the Stalker getting nerfed. The Atlas is good simply because of just the amount of damage you can do within 270 meters. The Mauler is alright for fire support. The Banshee is okay. It's still a handful.
Stalker 3H is still in there, but yeah, you're right.
You see a Stalker, but the Stalker 3H gets trumped by the Battlemaster 2C, because the Battlemaster 2C has structure, it has a load of structure, and it has a load of range too.
Yeah, I think the key is like Victors and Highlanders are just whatever. Don't even bother.
Victors.
Sorry, go ahead.
Which is
I'll get my
ironic.
point in after.
Victors, Highlanders, they've been junk for a long time. It's just nothing has changed. It's now, again, a few select mechs are good, and PGI has so many people that will offer input and say, hey, this is what needs to happen. So I mean, you look at clan mechs. What is still the best clan mechs? Well, the Direwolf, the Timberwolf, the Ebon Jag, the Stormcrow, the Arctic Cheetah. Nothing has changed on the clan side.
Nope.
So it's not that difficult, to have, a few people, whatever, and say, hey, this is what we can do to the clan mechs. Because all it did is it balanced the tier 1 IS versus the tier 1 clan. And if they want, for example, healthy competitive play in the future, they really need to address this, because seeing the same thing over and over again is so boring. Seeing Laser Vomit during that time period, or PPC Goss when it was around, it's so boring to watch. The most interesting matches I've ever seen was before March of 2013, where you had Jump Sniper Cataphracts, SRM Centurions, and Brawler DDCs. It was mixed drop decks. It was entertaining to watch.
It was, in fact, and actually, Rhythm, that was the point I was going to make, was that we need to not look on this only from a, well, every chassis is viable perspective in terms of variety. We have to be looking at this from a top-level balance, how the game itself is meant to be played. And there was a question a while back that I think it was actually one of the goons brought up, was that if they could ask Paul anything, it would be, what does a competitive game, a competitive match, look like, ideally, in your perfect design? And if we get an answer to that question, then we have a goal we can work towards.
Yeah, well, in the past it was, not even paper, rock, scissors, it was just rock. So, I mean, I think what makes more competitive matches is more viable gameplay options on multiple maps. So to where you know that if you're going to drop one map, the competitive scene basically knows what's going to happen on that map, what you need to do. The teams know each other so well they pretty much know to a certain extent what the other team is going to try, and all that could be changed if you start bringing more play styles into the fold. I'm actually going to be really interested to see if the SERM changes and the prominence of some of the mechs like the Atlas is actually going to play a role tonight, because this will be the first sort of comp match, so to speak, that actually has been planned, and they've practiced and made decisions based on a pretty wide variety of maps. So I'm actually pretty interested to see what these two teams come up with.
So one question that I have for you guys is, do you guys feel that they should be balancing the game at the highest levels primarily, or do you feel like there's any way that they could possibly balance the game so it fits at both the top tier level as well as the casual side level? For one example that people have brought up, if you buff LRMs to make them viable in comp play, will that completely destroy the lower level of play and really turn people away? Is there any way that you guys feel we can do this, or what would it take to be able to have a well-balanced game from top to bottom?
Alright, here's the thing for me, is that this game right now, you cannot balance it solely on tweaking the XML values, on tweaking the weapons themselves. Lerms especially are a problem where the mechanic itself needs a rework. And I don't think I'm going to find much opposition to that. Does anybody here?
Yeah,
no,
that sounds right.
I mean, yeah, if you increase damage,
good.
or if you increase damage or whatever, then it just makes the problem worse in some areas while it fixes it in others. So yeah, the mechanic has to be changed.
So yeah, that pulls into the whole, you need to hire somebody to do this only, and you need to give them a bit of support.
Autocannons.
So in the current form, to answer your question, you cannot balance Lerms based on the options we have available, like damage, velocity, heat, all that. It's going to be insufficient.
And of course, that was an extreme example, but one thing that was mentioned was potentially having a skill-based component added to Lerms. Not sure what exactly that would be. Maybe being able to steer them somehow, or maybe a team thing with the info warfare where LRMs won't react properly without the skill of another player. Something like that. But, as we saw with the Gauss, I kind of felt like the Gauss was a skill-based weapon with the charge-up mechanic, and the people who got really good at it started to use it very well, and you didn't see it used as effectively in some of the lower tier stuff, but then we saw it get nerfed recently. Is that the right direction to go, to try and make everything skill-based, or to make it more interesting, or is there a solution there?
Well, Gauss was it was just overpowered. You could brawl with it, you could do everything with it. It would do your taxes for you. I mean, it was just, it was the go-to weapon, and especially with clans, because clan autocannons, especially UAC 10 and up, they're garbage. The amount of channel time is just ridiculous on them. So, I mean, you look at what competitive players do. They look at the most optimal build. Why was Laser Gauss? Why did it work? It worked because, for example, I can take 5 ER mediums and a Gauss on a Timberwolf, and I will be able to do an effective maybe 40, alpha at 600 meters. and that's the reason why it was so nasty. Nobody ever takes, a UAC 10 or whatever because you're just going to flay your, bullets around and whatever. PGI really, they went about it and saying, oh, we're going to up the crit chance on, AC2s. No one really was heard about, the place of AC2s. The biggest things that need to be looked at or whatever, I still think, is AC10, UAC 10, and then UAC 20.
There's no other viable options. That's the trouble, with Gauss. That's why everything went laser vomit when the Gauss went away. That's why you're seeing more SERMs and more laser vomit, because it's not that Gauss invalidated other ACs, it's that other ACs invalidated themselves, and Gauss was just the best ballistic option.
So, and a lot of it's a simple fix, like LBXs. It's a shotgun weapon. It's going to spread. Okay, what can I do to make it, more appealing to take? I can lower the cooldown on it, so that way, because it's a shotgun weapon, if someone's going to get close to me, they're going to pay for it. It's just these simple little nuances that, I wish that they would, be more proactive about. LBXs have been garbage since they've been around. Yeah, there's no point in taking them. So if you lower the cooldown on them, at least you can say, hey, this guy, if I get close to him or whatever, he's just gonna just shred through me, all my armor, because he's got such a short cooldown.
And we still haven't seen much of a revisit to machine guns or flamers, they've been a joke for so long that it's hard to remember that there's still a weapon in the game. But
Sorry, did you mention machine guns? Because I'm pretty sure machine guns at one point were perfectly balanced,
and
we nerfed them for no reason.
Really? I must not have been playing during that time.
There was like a double nerf, exactly. Yeah. I think it was like 14 months ago.
Well, no, but they fixed hit reg, and supposedly that was going to increase the damage output by 10%. They thought machine guns were in a great place, so they nerfed the damage to compensate for the 10% increase in hit reg. That was the last change I remember to the machine gun. But it was in a good place because of the Ember, and then the Ember got out of favor because the quirks made the A and S so much better.
Right, like it was good because of that mech, not good on any other option.
Right.
Except G-Man's, there was a restriction in one match where you weren't allowed ballistics, so we had a 6MG Jaeger mech. Don't ask. I'm going to go back to your original question. It was, do we balance only around the top? Or is it possible to balance for both the top and the bottom? I emphatically believe that the latter is true. We can have balance across the spectrum. Here's the thing. It's not going to be the same balance. The same things that the top guys use aren't going to necessarily be the weapons that the bottom guys use to the same effect. There's going to be a little bit of a differential there. But it is possible that the meta is going to be fairly balanced throughout.
Well, if I balance things around the top guys, the guys who know how to, min-max everything or whatever, it's going to trickle down. If it's to the point where, for example, me, I can take something and I have no real advantage over the other guy taking another mech or whatever, the regular casual player, he's going to be able to perform just as well.
They're running those builds anyway.
Even if they're not, it's...
No, what I mean is they're running you see a lot of crazy builds in the pug queue, and so if everything is balanced, those crazy builds all of a sudden become more effective. That's what I was trying to get at.
It's just that there's a lot of simple fixes that can be done to fix the weapon balance. Again, LBX cooldown, that will easily do it. The SRM change they did, that honestly, I'm glad that they did it. That was a good change on their part. But if they did something to, clan UACs, UAC 10, LBXs, UAC 20, it would help out the weapon diversity a lot more.
I think one of the reasons I think clan and Intersphere ACs are kind of tying their own hands together, because PGI doesn't want to make clan UACs and clan ACs so much more overpowered than Intersphere ACs. But at the same time, Intersphere ACs, they weigh so much that there's not a lot of really viable builds because of speed on them. So, you don't want to improve one because then you'll make the other seem worthless. So instead of improving that one, you just keep them both sort of worthless. And, I think that the biggest reason why the Intersphere ACs aren't performing well is because of the tonnage and the benefit ratio for the mech. Mechs are just faster, and ballistics take up more space, and they're not worth... You can do the same thing with lasers as far as reasonable pinpoint damage for the tonnage, and you can move faster and poke better. So there's not a real... The cost-benefit, leaves those things in the dust. And I think if they kind of unattached them a little bit, maybe they could make the clans worth something and do something different with the Inner Sphere, which is what they're sort of the approach they're taking with the lasers.
So I think that, just going back, I think what we need beyond anything is somebody making those decisions, or somebody that's receiving the information from people that are in the trenches. Like either somebody that is playing it either at our level or is talking to the people at our level. Somebody at PGI needs to have... We feel that they have to have somebody that is interacting with those people to help make those balanced decisions. I think that's the biggest thing right now that they seem to be lacking, is because they're making a lot of decisions based on what people are saying in the forums and things like that, but it's kind of the too many hands in the pot thing where everybody's got an opinion, and it might not always be the right one, and when there's so many opinions, it's hard to see whether or not the decisions you're making are the right ones.
Yeah, it's so complicated too than other shooter games because of the different systems and the different styles of mechs. And you've got a community of comp players that have put a lot of time into this game, and they have knowledge and they have ability, and there are casual players and even casual teams that have input on this, and I agree, they just need somebody to put it all together and to be in charge of it, to say this is my thing.
The thing is that if they talk to a bunch of people and they said, hey, these are the sort of ideas, they can go around and they can test these things and say, hey, this works and this doesn't. I don't know what their internal process is for balancing or whatever, but when I see, like the Blackjack 1X, that thing is disgustingly overpowered still. I still think it is.
Well, it seemed very viable before, and now it got a massive buff with that last Quirkening. I was actually surprised to see it receive as much structure buffs as it did, since it was an effective mech before the balance pass. So that was kind of a shock to me. Now, I don't know if they just hadn't seen that the Blackjack was being used competitively in some instances, but I bought one immediately after the balance pass, I can tell you right now.
I'm gonna put it out there. I think that it's good that whoever is going to be doing this has to take community input. However, I think they still need to hire somebody that the buck stops with them. Right?
Accountability.
Right now, it seems like we get feedback on balance from several different people within PGI, and I don't know how it works. Like Rithen said, it seems to bounce around a bit.
And it's just too few and far between. It's like once every 6 months, you hear something. So it needs to be it's an ongoing growing process. Not something that say, oh hey, we've decided to finally address this.
I think a lot of it is a resource issue too. PGI is a smaller company. You can't afford to hire a team that's just going to sit around here all day and do this.
But you know what? We're the team. That's the thing, is the competitive group. We've tested a lot of this stuff. We're not running Laser Vomit because we just decided that we didn't want to run Lerms. This stuff has been tested into the ground, and this is what came out as the winner and as the meta. We didn't just say, well, we're going to run Laser Vomit because that's what we like to do. We don't run AC5s because we just don't want to. There's been so much testing going on that you have to use that resource. It's essentially hive mind, well, not hive mind, but it's throwing it out to the community. We do all the work, and we toss you back the results, and it's up to you to use those results to make a better game. So,
organizing those things is a big thing too.
I'm just going to throw it out there. We got 10 minutes. I think we've beaten this to death.
Sure.
PGI tournament?
Sure. So, that brings up a kind of segueing into the upcoming PGI tournament. What would you guys like to see with the PGI tournament? We really have no information now about what they are planning. We can obviously speculate on what we think they're going to do, but what would you guys like to see out of a PGI run pay tournament?
I'll jump in here in front of Siri because that's what I do. I'd like to see 8v8 and limitation on duplicate chassis sort of things. Basically, a similar in some ways how to MRBC restricts your drop decks. I think players from a viewer standpoint, if you're going to watch this tournament, if they want to make it, stream it, etc., get people to watch the game, no one wants to see 8 blackjack 1x's going against another 8 blackjacks. People want to see some diversity of the builds. The more diversity I think you can force into this game, into this tournament, the better.
I want to see 3 things. 1, I want to see fantastic casting. Just good production quality, people who know what they're talking about, actually commentating the match, so that rules me out. I want to see a good rule set, like MDM said. 8v8, I think, is preferable to 12v12. It's a little more tactical.
And it's a little bit more accessible, too.
Yeah, I don't want to see, like, campy skirmish matches, so that's part of what we're trying to do here tonight, is show some of the more common rule sets that we found to keep it entertaining. And I want to see intermissions that don't take 15 minutes, because if somebody's going to watch this 15 minutes, like, in between matches, that's just going to, or in between games, not matches, is going to completely lose their interest. And I think it's really a real simple way to facilitate that would be when they start the tournament, to give every single player in the tournament, not like ever, an account with unlimited money. And so they should have all of their mechs, all of their modules set up, because reality is the competitive matches we have now, they take a while because, oh shoot, this map I gotta rebuild my blackjack for something completely different, and I gotta transfer my modules, oh god, where did I leave it? And then we're poor. Gotta buy all of the competitive mechs as the meta shifts and the wheel turns like every 8 months, something like that.
Are you thinking kind of at the end when we start getting towards the actual result to do that, or are you thinking from the very beginning?
From the get-go. Like, you need to be having this cast from the get-go to make it a worthwhile PR endeavor. If we're only going to do the finals or even like the semifinals, then you're missing out on the impact, the growth that you could have had.
True. Brings up another point. How would you, I guess, pick the teams that would be doing this? Or would you leave it open-ended where any team can join? Would you have some sort of qualifier? What do you think would be a good idea to try and only have the highest quality units fighting through to the finish?
I mean, that's kind of asking the question, what do they want to get out of this? I'd say... Oof.
Qualifier sounds
Somebody else
pretty
take it?
interesting. Except anybody who wants to come in, and that might also help seed the tournament before the more serious round. Where you have a qualifier, and then how you do sort of like a trial of position, so to speak.
I think it would be very important to have some sort of competition before the competition to decide that in some fashion, instead of just saying, oh, well, I know EMP is a good team, let's bring them. Oh, I know SJR is a good team, let's bring them. And just kind of picking based on history, because especially with the Steam release, for all we know, there's teams out there that are getting together that are going to take comp seriously and are going to grow very quickly, and we don't want to omit them just because we've never heard of them before.
All right, I had a moment to think this over. My answer is, it depends on where we go from here. If this is a one-off, then you kind of have to take everybody. If this is something that we're going to be doing year after year, or if we're going to have like an ongoing league that people can participate in, which would be awesome,
totally.
Then you could afford to be a little more selective.
Cool.
I mean, I like the basic stuff where, it's a best of 5, not a best of 1, like first engagement.
Yeah, amen.
So,
Yes.
And then 2, it alternates between, like, Conquest and Skirmish. It doesn't have to be like Major League MechWarrior where it's one map, or it can alternate between a few maps, but I don't really care for Assault. And the biggest thing, I think, is that actually having these matches placed on their own separate server, so we don't get Major League MechWarrior Series 2 finals where, we had to call because the server was lagging.
That was awful.
Yeah, so that's a huge thing. Having own servers that are separate from the one that everyone else plays on. So that way we don't have this issue. There's no issues of lag and stuff like that. So just the basic stuff or whatever, it'll smooth things over quite a bit.
There's two things I'd like to see. And number one is I'd like to see well-defined draw rule that makes a lot of sense. That's the biggest thing that comp struggles with is coming up with draw rules that are fun, make sense, and can't be exploited. We've seen exploitation happen with draw rules throughout the history of competitive. Right. So having something redrop. Having something that makes sense there would be. Redrops are good, but then you want to make sure it doesn't happen again and again and again. So there's got to be something there. And the second thing is, at the announcement they mentioned that they want to have each region represented. And I think that's fair because obviously we don't know what's going to happen, and it's kind of arrogant to say that NA and EU is going to dominate most of it. But they don't want to just say that the newer places are going to have automatic berths in the finals, like there's going to be an AP, an EU, and an NA team represented. So I think that it probably at some point in time those need to come together before the main finals, so that teams aren't manipulating where they start. It
would be nice if that when they release it, they say, "Hey, this is what the preliminary rules are," or whatever, and then that way people can provide their input and all that, because we don't know what they're thinking.
That's right. Input back and forth would be awesome. So they say, "Here's our rules. What do you guys think? Is there anything that we're missing?" I mean, that single thing right there would make a massive difference.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it out there. Other games that I watch, cough, World of Tanks, have a dedicated competitive mode where it's attack defense, so that there are no draws. And I think the necessity for a draw rule is predicated upon the fact that some of the game modes just straight up suck for competitive play. And I would love to see a dedicated mode that we could use. And the key thing about the attack defense, it's not like Clan Wars where you only have one point to defend. They give you different options, so the defending team can't just camp. So think Counter-Strike where you have, 2 places to plant the bomb, something like that. But where it's very cognizant of the drawbacks of the game and how we don't have respawns.
Major League MechWarrior did that, where it says if it ties or whatever, like both teams get a point or they don't get a point or something like that. It prevented from the entire let's sit in the corner and not do anything.
It did. It was really creative, but I thought it was really heavy-handed to the team that won the first match. That was the only drawback to that rule set, I think. But it did do a very creative job at handling it. It just, like I said, it just felt a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, well, the team that wins the first one, they have a reason to camp then, because if they draw to a tie, that's just one more point in their bucket, essentially. That could be rough to, they still have that incentive to play to a draw, and the other team has an incentive to put themselves at risk to try and break the draw. And you kind of have that same issue. It's going to be a tough thing to fix, but there's been a lot of conversation. I don't think anybody's come up with the perfect tournament yet, but especially since the meta likes to change right in the middle of things, and it breaks things that weren't broken before and things like that. But I guess one last thing I just want to throw out there before we wrap this up. What about some sort of CW style tournament? Do you think that's viable in any case? Obviously you can't do like best of 5 with CW since those like to take a while. Do you think it's viable to have multiple mechs in a dropship and in a competitive environment?
I think it kind of gets away from the core of MechWarrior, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Cool. I'd rather put my face to the monitor.
Cheese grater. All right. Well, I just wanted to toss it in there because I've heard people talking about it for the tournament. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about it. But
I think it would be interesting for them to allow the CW game mode in private lobby, because I think there are a lot of other alternatives that the community could do with that.
That is true.
That's one thing for sure that I would like to see. But as far as the World Championship of MechWarrior, no, I don't think that would be the best idea.
And then one last thing, because I said last thing before, but one last thing that I did want to throw out there. What do you guys think about potentially bringing back some of the old maps in private lobby only, like the old Forest Colony, the old Forest Colony Snow, the old Caustic Valley, things like that, allowing that as an option in private lobby to potentially continue to use in a competitive environment, or at least third-party league?
There's no reason not to.
Absolutely none.
Yeah.
Zero reason not to allow it.
What about you, Rithen? Would you like to see those old maps back in the private lobby?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up the roundtable. Thank you to all the guests that stopped by and spent the last hour with us, and I thought it was a very good conversation. You guys had a lot of really good things to say. I guess, Vonka, did you have any shout-outs you wanted to make before we wrap up?
No, there's no time here. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, we
Get
do.
into it, man.
All right, we do have a match coming up here. They are forming up in lobbies, so we're probably going to get started over there and things. But Vonka, thanks for coming by. Siri, thanks for coming by. Rithen, thanks for coming by. Oh, Siri's apparently got a shout-out. Go ahead.
I have a shout-out. It's going back to my point about how if you join a unit, you are more likely to stick around. It is fun. It is social. Get out there if you're lonely and by yourself. Plenty of people were like you. They found happiness. To help you with that, there is on Outreach. Shut up. To help you with that, on Outreach HPG, we have an official recruitment thread. I will link it in chat. Speaking of Outreach HPG, if you don't know what it is, it's the subreddit for MechWarrior Online. Come by, check it out. Don't make me mod you. Have fun.
Long old shout out, man.
Who do you think's gonna win the match?
That's another good question. Who, based on what we know?
Oh my god, fuck Nightbot.
Oh, here, I think I can permit you.
Siri was moderated. How's it feel, Siri?
So, any bets to who's taking the series?
I've heard a lot of people saying 228, and I think that's heavily based on what we saw in the last RBC match. But personally, I think SJR has done a lot of preparation, and they've had some of their guys come back. And I think they've been fighting against burnout and stuff like that. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they can do here.
I think it's a coin toss. I don't. I think what SJR struggled a little bit in the MRVCs, but I think that was a big factor. That was rules and some of the guys. Some of their guys not being there. So I think I'd be very surprised if this wasn't a very good series.
Excellent. All right, so thank you, everybody, for coming by. You guys have been fantastic. I thought it was a very good conversation. I'm really happy that you guys showed up and stuff. We'll definitely be calling on you guys again. As for the stream itself, we are going to continue on to our actual main event, shoutcasting the 228 versus SJR exhibition match. I am going to actually stop the stream, and I'm going to plug in a delay, because the standard procedure for competitive matches is to add a stream delay to prevent any possibility of people watching a stream to gain information about enemy positions and things like that. I don't think either of these teams would even dream of doing that, but in order to both preserve the integrity of the match and to just get everybody used to what we see on a daily basis when we shoutcast these and stuff, I am going to do that in this event. So the stream will go dead for a little bit, and then it will come back, and we will get started with the main event. So thanks, everybody. Hopefully you guys stick around. We'll get into this, and thanks a ton. All right. We are back. And here we go. This is 228 versus Steel Jaguar, the main event. Thank you, everybody, for coming by for the pregame show. I thought we had a very good discussion, and I thought there was some really good stuff there, so I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it as well. But it is time to move forward and start talking about what we're up against here and in this upcoming match. The first map they're going to be on is the new Caustic Valley. We're doing 12v12 for this tournament, and the rule set for this first one is a 3-3-3-3 conquest. So that means 3 lights, 3 mediums, 3 heavies, 3 assaults on conquest. So a lot of tournament play that we've seen so far has been done in skirmish. So all 5 of these drops will be on conquest, and it'll be interesting to see how that changes some of the strategies and what people are going to do here. What do you think we're going to see, MD?
I am really, really crossing my fingers to see a return of the brawl, a good old-fashioned comp brawl where, you know, you see just 2 teams just smash into each other at like 200 meters and just wreck face. I think with the SRM changes, we're going to see that. I mean, the Atlas now, like we discussed in the pregame show, is a little bit of a monster, which personally I love. I love that, you know, 100-ton mech with the glowing eyes and the big skull face on it. That should be a monster. So I'm hoping for a brawl. I think we're going to find that the cap points really don't matter, except maybe for anything other than discourage some just pure camping. If you start losing on cap points, okay. But I think we're just going to still see a brawl. Probably ignore the cap points unless it becomes a problem. Or I hope for a brawl.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the stuff that I've enjoyed seeing the most is I like seeing some of the initial exchanges, some of the tear down a little bit. Not necessarily a stagnant standoff, but a good exchange of fire, and then having it devolve into somebody makes a mistake and it collapses into an all-out brawl. I do like the all-out brawl. Not a huge fan personally of every single match being, 10-minute wait followed by 2 minutes of instant combat and then a finish. But you know what though? Some of the best combat does come out of those brawls. It is very hard fought. You see mechs dying on both sides. It's not necessarily always going to be like a 12-0 stomp like you sometimes see during a wear down phase. And you got guys dying left and right. But at the same token, I like to see a little bit of a longer match, but not a direct no-shot standoff.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think in an ideal world, from a viewer perspective, from a shoutcasting perspective, we would love to see kind of a slow engagement that devolves into a brawl. And some things do. But a lot of times what you wind up seeing is trading for a while, the other team gets down 1 or 2 mechs, and then it becomes a brawl, at which point, it's hard because once you have that tonnage disadvantage just from not having the mechs, not having the firepower, not having the armor, it makes it a lot, the brawl is not as fun to watch, right? But I'm really, really hoping that, like you said, we get kind of maybe a poke engagement for a little while, wear some armor down, and then just 2 teams kind of get in there and tear it up, and we get some good old-fashioned mech action.
Yeah, so as for Caustic Valley, the new Caustic Valley, do you think we're going to see a lot of exchange over the Caldara? Do we just going to see kind of a NASCAR? Do you think they're going to avoid the Caldara altogether and go to a complete corner of the map somewhere? I don't think they're necessarily going to be able to do that on Conquest, but yeah. Do you think it's going to be just a fight over Theta? Is there going to be heavy rotation, or are they just going to smash into each other and get it over with?
I think it's going to be tough to say. I mean, especially with the new Caustic Valley, and I'll go a little bit on a sort of tangent here. I really, the one thing about it is they put it's still a NASCAR formation with the center caldera, and you're going around the edges and stuff, and then they just put a bunch of boulders everywhere, so you're like NASCAR, but you sort of get stuck, or you can't get stuck, or some of the bigger mechs get stuck because assault mechs, for whatever reason, can't traverse small boulders as well as smaller mechs. There's kind of a lot of junk in the middle. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an engagement outside the caldera, but I wouldn't expect one either, I guess is the best way to say it. I think you will see maybe engagement on the outside. A lot of times we see a counter to the NASCAR trying to cut over straight through the caldera. The only problem with that is it's really hot in the caldera. It's a hot map to begin with, and it's hotter when you get in that caldera. So it'll be interesting to see what these two teams do. Again, that's something we talked about in the pregame show, but this is kind of the first real competitive match we have since this balance pass. I'm really interested to see how they plan it out and then how they, approach it.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that they give Caustic another look, especially with kind of what they've announced, what they're doing with Viridian Bog, making some of the tree roots breakable and things like that. I would like to see some of the rocks, the little pebbles that you always get stuck on, either completely removed or make them breakable as well. Countless times I'm moving and I feel that there's no obstruction in front of me. I go to shoot at somebody and suddenly my mech jumps up and down and my shot goes all over the place. Because it's hard to keep your mouse on it when it's a sudden up and down. Or even worse, you're trying to get away from someone and you're stuck on something and you're looking at them like, there's nothing there. Oh, there's a rock, a little rock that my big stompy mech can't get past. So I'm hoping that they take another look at it. I like the scenery and I like how it looks. I think it's a pretty cool looking map. The haze always kind of gets me a little bit, but it's avoidable on Caustic because of heat vision, being able to cut through it and see the big black splotch out in the distance and things like that. So I can't complain about that as much for this particular map. But those little rocks, they get me every time, and I think that's the chief complaint a lot of people have about it. I don't mind those giant boulders that are kind of, making it so it's not just a giant ridge line to shoot over anymore. I'm okay with those from my personal experience. It makes it a little bit more interesting. There's a little bit more cover to work with, which solves some of the LRM issues in public queue. But those little pebbles that get me. So I'm hoping that they touch on that again.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, I saw something from Russ on Twitter that they were looking at reducing those pebbles. I think it was last night. I mean, it was last night right before I was going to sleep, so he could have said anything. But I think that's what he said, and I hope they do. And you're right. I think some of the boulders that they put in there have kind of, in effect, added a little more cover. Caustic does not feel to me anymore like as LRM friendly as it once was. Not that we're expecting to see that tonight, but so I will say some of those changes are good. But we'll see what they come across.
All right, well, it looks like we are getting connected now, so we're going to hop in there and take a look. It's been a little bit since I've, done an in-game shoutcast, so let's see how this goes. I do think that they still have an issue with the names above the heads. I'll give it a shot, but just forewarning that if you see a heavy stutter on the names, I'm probably going to turn it off because it's a little bit distracting. So off we go into Caustic Valley. This is also going to be one of the first, besides the LRM match, one of the first 12v12 matches that I've ever shoutcasted, so this will be exciting. And once again, Caustic Valley being one of the new maps is one where they come in on their dropship. So let's take a look. See the name start is still there, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for now. But let's take a look at some of these mechs and what they have to offer. I am over here on the red side, Team 2, which looks like it is SJR. Yep. I'm seeing medium lasers and SRMs.
And it's interesting, it looks like, just looking at the teams here, it looks like we got some Atlases running, a couple Atlases for SJR, and none for 228. A lot more, it looks like a lot more clan mechs on the 228 side. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out with some of the buffs that Inner Sphere mechs have received versus the clan mechs.
Now, SJR has gone, it appears, heavy brawl, and they have moved up to take Theta. 228 has spread out to both Gamma and Epsilon. And
228 is running a range deck. They've got a lot of large lasers, clan large. There's even some Gauss rifles. I see some clan ER mediums. This is not a brawl deck that 228 has brought to this game.
So we do have a very different decks between... they do have their light mechs heading over to Kappa to try and force Kappa back over to their side, but their Brawl team does control Theta at this point. It will be, can they do that without getting worn down? Can the extra cover on the
and
side
here
of the map
we've
here.
got some engagement at Kappa. Looks like some of the 228 mechs, their blackjacks, some of their faster mediums have moved up. They've got large lasers on those mechs, and they're trying to do some damage to the light mechs of SJR at Kappa.
It looks like they got some hits on them, but not too much, to really pitch it in one way or the other. They did, in fact, switch Kappa back, but they got out, with the worst mech being at 94% currently. So they have switched it over.
228 took a pretty big arty strike on their blackjacks. They actually got the worst of that deal, it looks like, just looking at the percentages.
Without even necessarily taking a shot from the lights either.
Although now at this point they do have some opportunities to do some damage to those lights at long range, and it looks like SJR is moving up to the Caldera in mass.
So Kappa has once again been switched back over to neutral and will be tossing back over to 228. I don't know if SJR can continue fighting over Kappa. They may decide to head over by Epsilon, since this seems to have a decent overwatch with those blackjacks over there. Not sure if they will make that call or what, but they can't wait too long with only 2 cap points.
Yeah, it's a really interesting strategy. I mean, 228 went ranged and sat back, made sure they got the cap points. SJR has to get some of these mechs down. They have to get the numerical advantage. So they need to find one of these clusters and push them hard. Although it looks like 228 now
they are heading over to Epsilon. Yep.
Yeah, 228's moving back together, it looks like, trying to stick
They
together.
are rotating. I think the call was made that they saw the one light mech heading over to Epsilon, and 228 has begun to move its main blackjack force out of the Kappa region. So they're going to try and get a jump on whoever's taking Epsi. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they get... They're not going to have the pleasure of that many more arty strikes to return fire this time.
Yep.
So this time they could potentially get caught out and perhaps even killed. This might force an altercation, but...
And this might be the best opportunity SJR has to cut across. Most of their team is sitting at the Caldera. If they can cut across at these guys moving towards Epsilon, they might be able to get an advantage just by forcing 228 to move to one of the closer cap points.
With that said, though, 228 has shown that they are very responsive to any calls and are moving very quickly. So if SJR decides to stab out, I wouldn't doubt that 228 is going to respond incredibly quickly. But we do have a 3v3 light match here. The disadvantage to SJR being that as 228 draws them out into the open, those large lasers are going to start laying some fire down. But the Arctic Cheetah does go down. Now it is a 3v2 over here. So despite the extra laser fire coming in from the side, they were able to take one of the 228 mechs down, and so far have everybody alive, but the Oxide down to 45%.
Yeah, that Oxide's got weak legs. One shot to one of his legs, and he will go down.
Blackjack is moving up hard, though, into brawl range.
Yep.
And one of them does go down, the Arctic Cheetah, and
the
followed
Cheetah
by
and
the
Oxide just went down.
So
they're losing their lights here. SJR has to make a move. They has to realize that they're losing the only mechs at this point, and now all 3 lights are down. They need to make a move here, and it looks like they are. They are moving out of the Caldera. Let's see if 228 responds appropriately. They're trying to go after these guys, it looks like, maybe towards Gamma, possibly.
But it looks to me like 228 is going to respond by heading towards Sigma. They're playing the cap point very well. Or they might be recalling to fight SJR here. We'll see if they can catch that Gamma Lance out in the open and actually kill them. That could bring the advantage right back into their favor.
Yeah, SJR needs to get across this terrain. They've got a few hills that they can get behind to kind of get some of these ranged mechs off them. But
and we are now in brawl range. The Direwolf is caught out, so they are heading straight for the assaults, and they're going to see whether they can put him down. And the Direwolf goes down. That's going to be a huge loss of tonnage. So even though they lost their 3 light mechs, they are heading straight for the high tonnage mechs, and they're going to take them out. 228 doesn't look like they can get any reliable focus on the back few SJR mechs, but there goes all 3 assault mechs for 228. So we'll see now. They've got to turn around and face that main range deck.
Yeah, now they've got to get into that range deck, and that's a quick range deck. There's Blackjacks, Timberwolves, it's not going to be easy to close the distance with these guys.
The Atlas is leading the way and tanking like a boss. I think he's doing his job as intended. He is now behind a hill, but he took a lot of heat off the rest of his team. As for percentages, obviously, besides Marshall and the Arctic Cheetah, who took a lot of fire from that initial skirmish, most of 228's mechs are in very good shape, and SJR has taken quite a bit of fire. But if they can close the gap and get back into brawl range here, they could just continue to rock them down. Unfortunately, the mechs that they're chasing after are the mediums and heavies, and those guys can keep that distance a lot better than, say, the Direwolf. So taking down those assaults was good for them. But if 228
looks like
can
they've
get the
caught
distance,
a Timberwolf here. Caught a Timberwolf off guard. I don't think they realize it. That Arctic Cheetah is actually lagged and is very close by, but looks like they've noticed him now, and they might be going after him. They want to get that kill.
oh yeah, he's in the backfield there. So they're going to work him down, but the rest of their team is going to finish the job elsewhere. So he does go down. Things now swinging pretty decently in favor of SJR. 228 does have the caps currently, though. They will flip Theta back here, but they have the points. I don't think they're going to have enough, though, to finish the job. So we'll see what happens with the last few mechs here in the battle over Sigma.
And it looks like SJR is going to take a stop here to cap some of these points. They just grabbed Theta. And now that there's only a handful for 228 mechs left, SJR is just going to take advantage of the numerical, skill. And looks like they got a couple mechs going for Kappa, and the rest are trying to get these guys from 228 who are moving away from Sigma. They're going to force 228 to have to come to these cap points now that they have the advantage by number.
New target acquired.
So I'm popping into some of the cockpits here just to see what the last little bit of this battle is going to look like here as SJR moves up to go hunt the last few mechs down. So we've got the Quick Draw 4G, which was predominantly shown on our advertisement here. I run it a lot. I love it. But it is doing some work on the Timberwolf.
And down goes another 228 mech. Edmeister just died in the Timberwolf. Only 2 left, a Blackjack and an Arctic Cheetah. Obviously going to be probably the 2 hardest to kill, but with this numerical advantage, I believe it's 2-8 at this point. There's just not really anything 228 can do.
And here's Jaeger in the Atlas S with an AC-20 and 2 medium lasers still alive on his mech. He's actually doing quite well for being an Atlas. And he's continuing to lay down the hurt.
Let's take a look here at the last engagement. What do we have over here? A Timberwolf trying to chase down the final remaining mech, which is an Arctic Cheetah moving towards Gamma. Let's see if we can figure out what weapons we're running here. Got small pulse lasers and SRM-6 with Artemis. So
time ran out, or SJR has reached 750 cap points. I was confused as to what was happening. I haven't done Conquest in forever. But they did win on cap points with the 1 Arctic Cheetah remaining. So SJR takes first match against 228 with quite a few of their brawler mechs alive. 228 definitely played really strong in the beginning, dispatching the light mechs, but they did leave their assaults behind, and I think SJR definitely made the right move, jumping on those assaults and then turning around immediately to run down the heavies and the assaults.
Yeah, honestly, I thought 228's strategy was really good. A lot of fast-range mechs, and the one weakness were those assaults. And as soon as those assaults went down, then it just became a battle of numbers. And as we see so many times in MechWarrior Online, as soon as you lose 1 or 2 mechs, it's almost really hard, unless you're in a close brawl where you can take down mechs very quickly. It's very hard to overcome that, and especially if you're doing a range drop, when you go down 1 or 2, the loss of firepower, the loss of armor it's very hard to overcome, and I think that's, losing those assault mechs took that from something where SJR really was trying to figure out what the heck to do, to they've got the advantage, and 228 needed a miracle to come back.
Awesome. And I just put more power into OBS on my CPU, so hopefully that fixes a little bit of that stutter there. But so yeah, that's let me switch this over. Steel Jaguar taking the first match here, and we are going to be moving into a slightly different rule set with it's no longer going to be 3-3-3-3. We're heading over to River City, and it's going to be 700 tons. So it's really going to be artists' choice as to what they're going to bring to this one. They could bring a bunch of assaults and a bunch of lighter mechs, or they can go, a bunch of heavies, a bunch of mediums, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys build this to fit what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I kind of like that. With all the balance changes and everything, it's nice the fact that really the game mode's going to say you can bring whatever the heck you want at 700 tons. Obviously, for a 12-man, it doesn't mean you can run 12 Atlases or something, which would make for an interesting shoutcast, but it's not nearly as restrictive as some of the other things I think we've seen. You don't have to fit 3 assaults, so if 228 wanted to run the same kind of fast range deck, this setup for the match might be a better way of doing it, but I'm not sure if the map will be the best way to do that. I think the reason they did that fast range deck is because Caustic lends itself so well to NASCAR. There's a lot of open areas, you can circle around a central feature, and I thought, the Conquest mode that was smart at playing the points that are on the outsides, just forcing to be 3-3-3-3. I hope that's 4 threes.
I do that
allows,
all the time.
It forces you. You got to bring these assaults, which, according to the strategy that they were running, they're a liability.
Absolutely. So let's see if I can get the old replay going here. Got to set up my regions real quick. But yeah, we're gonna go back and we're gonna watch kind of what went on here while the teams prepare for drop 2, switch out their mechs and things like that, and get ready. But let's go ahead and bring that sucker up, and there we go. Not quite. There we go. Cool. So what we got here, where I started this one, they had that original encounter at Kappa, but the 3 light mechs then moved over to the other side of the map and began to engage at, I believe that's Epsilon. The 228 mechs, the light mechs did respond and did jump on those lights. They were able to kill one of the 228 light mechs early on, but ultimately SJR lost 3 of their lights. In the process, though, and I think you and me were kind of on the same page. We felt like maybe SJR jumped on it a little late, but ultimately it ended up working in their favor. They decided, okay, let's go for the assaults. So while that skirmish was happening and as it was drawing to a close, they sent their main force from Theta to Gamma, where there was still 3 228 assault mechs waiting. They couldn't keep up with the group. They didn't necessarily send those assault mechs. It looks like they were actually buttoned up almost as the anchor. But the SJR clan mechs and other mechs that they have are fast enough that they were able to jump over the Caldara, rush down those assaults, and take them out, while taking relatively little damage from 228. I mean, it did wear them down, but they did a good job spreading it. They had their Atlas in the back, so this is kind of a reverse charge, where instead of leading with the Atlas, he was in the back, and I think he was getting shot at a bunch. And did a really good job tanking. I'm sure they were prioritizing on the bigger threats, but at the same token, I mean, he came away with only 1 shoulder. He clearly caused them to focus on him at least a little bit, and that worked really well in SJR's favor, having him back there as almost a support. That charge was great. They took those assaults out quickly, but then the other key is that they were able to turn around and run down the 228 mechs who were still fast. The mediums and the heavies, they're able to keep up. They're able to run away, but they were able to run those mechs down and still put effective fire. You know, they're taking advantage of 228 mechs that got caught out. Like this guy right here. He wasn't with the rest of his team. He was out of position. Whether that was intentional or not, it didn't work in his favor. And they systematically took down those 228 mechs one at a time and were able to seal the deal then. And ultimately regain those cap points, even though they were down at this point. They had the mechs to do the job and were able to finish it up. So that was a very good move by SJR. I can see what 228 was trying to do, but ultimately being forced by the SJR lights to split so far apart to cover those multiple points, this is really where we see the different flavor from Conquest as opposed to Skirmish. Everybody was fighting all over the battlefield here, and it was really, really a pleasure to watch. So I'm excited to see what happens on some of these other maps in Conquest, and see what ends up. What strategies do we see? Is it going to degrade into just straight up brawl now? Does this show that maybe range doesn't work as well anymore? Maybe just not on this map. It's really hard to draw true conclusions from this, but as we saw, the range just was not working in this instance. So going into River City, what do you think we're going to see now?
I think you see a brawl again. There's so many places on River City that allow you to close in, and I think you can say that with the structure buffs, it takes longer now for a ranged deck to bring down a mech. Even when you're focusing, it takes longer. Now, that might not be that long if you got 12 people focusing one target, but still longer than previously, and a lot of the places you would see ranged on River City were, the water or at the dropship, where you could back up all the way in the back of the dropship. And ideally, right, you want a power position. You want a lot of open terrain that a brawl deck has to close in order to get to you, because you have the range and they can't do as much damage to you at range. So you want that just long stretch where they have to make that charge across the water or across the to the dropship. But with the way that the structure buffs have gone, I think you're going to see a brawl. The other thing I do want to point out, though, with the ranged deck is that Caustic is a warmer map, right? So a ranged deck might work better on a cooler map. Maybe a Frozen City, ranged drop would work better than a Caustic. I don't know. That's hard to say with the balance changes being so new, but I do expect to see a brawl. Maybe just meet me at the Citadel, right, and we'll duke it out, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, historically, what we've seen with range decks is they can put a lot of hurt down early on when a team is charging them, but once you run them up on the heat, it's a lot easier to finish the job as a brawler at that close range. So it's compounded on Caustic Valley that you run up that heat and now you got nothing. Especially with the meta being so laser vomity, that you don't have the Gauss to rely on as much anymore when they start closing that gap. People say that, okay, well, with the cooldown nerf, you can still use it as a sniper mech. Well, you need to have that lower cooldown to be able to survive when they close that gap, and having that taken away from them, essentially, it's not as viable to keep around as a secondary weapon once you do run up the heat. And so you kind of run out of your options, you fizzle out, and they're able to take advantage of that. And I think we definitely saw that against those assaults. They were taken on numbers, of course, but we definitely saw the fire from those assaults significantly slow down at that point.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The losing the Gauss as your secondary weapon in a ranged deck does favor brawling more. It's just another thing that running up your heat at the beginning of an engagement, if you don't get a significant numbers advantage now, I think if you don't get multiple mechs down before they close the distance, you're compounding your problems with the heat, and now you've got a fairly even fight, except your weapons don't have the same damage over time, the same heat generation that the enemy does, and you're just you're at a struggle. So I think what I would expect to see is both teams go brawl unless they've already come up with the strategy. Clearly 228 was planning ahead of time. That was the strategy they were going to do. That can't be we're going to just call this on the fly. So unless they've got a strategy that they think will work at range, and they're willing to try it, I think we'll see we'll see 2 brawl decks for this next match.
And we are going to go ahead and do a giveaway in chat. Obviously, you're hearing this 3 minutes later, but basically anybody who is active in chat in the last 10 minutes are automatically entered, so all I have to do is do the drawing and stuff like that. But I'm going to wait a little bit to allow people to say something in the chat to be active, and then I'll go ahead and do that drawing then. But they are getting back in lobby. One of the rule sets that we had for this is the loser of the last match is able to choose what side of the next map they're going to be on. So 228 does get the choice on this on River City here going into it. So cool. River City. So
I think we'll see a Citadel. So it seems like the Citadel. Seems like
with Conquest though, Theta is so close to Citadel that I think that we will see action around there. But you can't just sit there. It's at least with Theta at Caldera, you could kind of button up in the middle and just avoid some of that scratch fire. But you don't have that comfortable spot necessarily with Citadel. You're forced to one side of Theta, which puts you significantly farther away from the rest of the cap points. So it'll be very interesting to see what these guys do, but we are going to go ahead and get started. So hopefully, before the $100,000 tournament or whatever, whoever's going to be shoutcasting it and stuff like that, hopefully they introduce some improvements to the spectator tool that the rest of us can enjoy and stuff in game. I know that a lot of people have been making some suggestions and stuff like that, and PGI seems to be pretty receptive about it. So hopefully they can take that and run with it. Oh man, it's nighttime. Let's see if I can gamma up. Wow. Alright. Hopefully that'll give everybody a better viewing experience, but let's hit all the crazy keys.
Nighttime over the city, the calm before the storm. Suddenly dropships.
So let's get started here. Team 2 now, red, is 228. They're no longer blue, so we have a flipped side here. I'm seeing ER mediums and large pulses, and they're Timberwolves, ER mediums, large pulses, ER medium, large pulses, Blackjack, 3 ER large. So 228 once again going for the more longer range deck, but definitely has some power at that medium range.
And you know what I'm seeing out of SJR? I'm seeing a lot of large lasers, large pulse, ER larges. This is another medium to long range deck. So we're actually going to see the opposite of what I hoped for, unfortunately. It looks like we're going to see 2 range decks duking it out rather than 2 brawl, although we've got an initial clash here right at Theta. The light mechs ran right into each other.
And it looks to me like SJR has their lasers to point on Theta a lot sooner than 228 does. So they're able to lay some of that fire down, but so far it looks to me like it's just scratch damage. Nobody really taking too much. They did flip Theta, but it's immediately changing hands right back into SJR's favor. 228 decided to pull their light mechs out. It was just too hot at Theta, so they're going to see whether or not they can get their longer range mechs to do some of the work ahead of time here. But at this point, though, they can't sit here and trade too long. It is Conquest. They're going to have to make a move in one direction or another at some point. Most of their mechs are perched up in Upper City, firing down at Citadel. But how long are they going to trade before they decide to make a move? Really, with this map on Conquest, it's very tough to go one way or the other to get those other cap points without taking quite a bit of fire from that Citadel position. Likewise, it's hard to move anywhere against the Upper City, but with Theta flipped or at least neutralized at this point. I don't see a lot of lateral movement happening here unless there's absolutely no other choice. So since Theta was neutralized and not capped, one team is not getting too significant of an advantage over another. Oh, this guy stepped out and got completely walloped. That is the Blackjack 3 panic button going down to 81%. Yep. So he took a lot of fire there. A lot of really good trades coming in from SJR right now.
I think SJR, with their initial movement, they split their deck, looks like a couple by Citadel, a couple over by Dropship, and it gave them a little bit of an advantage versus that Upper City position because they had two angles to shoot at, so you couldn't necessarily just hide behind one building and peek from a single position. You had to keep in mind that there were mechs shooting from either side. It looks like 228's trying to do the same thing, put some guys in Lower City, some guys in Upper City, so get some more firing angles and kind of even up these trades. But I think right now it looks like SJR definitely has the better deal.
And SJR did take Theta back, so they are now evening out the ticket score here. They can now withdraw from Theta, and it's such a long run across that open water to get to Theta. It's that the positioning of Theta seems to be very well in favor of SJR, but SJR is rotating left. They are not staying there, even though they're pretty comfortable with the things they have. I think
and 228's pushing into the water now at Citadel. Let's see if SJR is getting some fire on them, but 228's getting a little bit of focus fire on some of the guys that might have been a little slow to rotate. This is a nice light show coming across the water here.
Absolutely. I mean, the movement of 228 was very well timed. SJR was in transition when that movement started, so they weren't able to bring all of their weapons to bear at the exact same time. But we have a lot of fire going back and forth here. Percentages
and 228 looks a little clumped up at this point.
And the Timberwolf goes down in the backfield. Grim goes down in his Timberwolf. SJR did a good job firing past the rest of the 228 mechs to finish the job on him. He was trying to filter out into the back. But we got the lights involved now. They are jumping on this guy. He goes down too. Another Timberwolf. Morgan goes down in the front. The light mech did a good job getting on him. Quick draw goes down for SJR. 228 is now sending their main body up past Theta and starting to hit the side of SJR.
Down for 228 and another quick draw down for SJR.
So the percentage is looking very in favor of SJR right now. 228 is getting kind of mauled down. They got into brawl range.
A stalker down for SJR.
But SJR is doing a very good job backing up and maintaining just enough distance to be able to focus targets wherever they might peek out. You know, they're not in a cluster right now, so everyone is still able to focus fire effectively. And
another two just went down for 228.
This is going heavily in favor of SJR. Looks like they are going to take drop 2. Oh, they're jumping on this Blackjack. Can they take him out? Doesn't look like it. 3 mechs remaining for 228. Very well fought by both teams. But SJR, their decision to leave the Citadel, I think, worked very heavily in their favor. They crossed the water, they headed into the Grove, and it essentially, even though 228 started their movement at the right time, unfortunately, 228 was caught in the water, and SJR moved into Grove, where they're able to get the high ground, per se, and be able to focus effectively down on 228 and take that early kill against the Timberwolf. I think that was the biggest thing. If SJR stayed at Citadel, that could have gone very, very heavily in another direction there, but that was quick thinking on the part of their drop color to move them up and take that Grove area and continue to lay down their fire.
Yeah, I think 2 things SJR did really well that gave them the advantage there. Initially, 228 moved up to Upper City with the majority of their mechs. They had a couple light mechs keeping an eye on some of the caps. The rest of their team was in Upper City. SJR, on the other hand, had some guys at Dropship and some guys at Citadel, and what that allowed them to do was to have better trades. They had 2 angles to shoot from, reducing the cover that 228 had in Upper City and kind of forcing them into a less effective trading position, even though you could say that Upper City having the high ground might be a better spot one-on-one. The other thing that SJR did, like you just said, was that movement into the water was great, but I think also 228 was a little slow to respond. SJR was already basically halfway across the water and in position to fire when 228 moved en masse into the water. And then once that happened, 228 got to the Citadel and kind of realized, hey, what are we doing right here? You know, we can't just go behind the Citadel. We're just going to lose more caps. We need to engage. But then they had to kind of go behind they got to the edge of the Citadel and then pushed back out.
Through
by that
the water.
point,
At that point, they SJR had the pick of who they wanted to kill first, and they were able to reach out past the entirety of 228 and kill the target that was attempting to retreat to keep his mech alive and finish him off. And that's, that positioning shows that he can't just filter back and go behind a rock in that position. That water was pretty rough. I don't know if 228 necessarily knew that SJR was going to make that move, but I think that move was very well done by SJR to respond to the movement of 228.
Yeah, and I think the only opportunity 228 really had was to make that move across the water quicker. Get across the water before SJR gets into that grove, before they've got all their teammates in a position where they can fire on you. And at that point, then maybe you get up onto the Citadel, maybe you get into the city, you basically swap positions, and maybe you get the advantage. Tough to say, whether that was just a slow, a slow drop call, whether that was just the intel was a little slow coming, they didn't realize that movement was happening at first, but it certainly looked like SJR had the better intel. They saw 228 move down into lower city from upper city, and the drop caller made the call, we're going to push up into the grove and get a better angle at him.
Congratulations to the winners. I will be sending you the messages as soon as I can, but I have you marked down in my spreadsheet here, and we will get those out to you. So those are one-day premium time codes. So let's go take a look at the replay. So what we got here, where I'm starting us off, this is where we can see 228 has begun their movement down from Upper City. That position clearly wasn't going to work for them because they can't maintain Theta. It takes very little effort for SJR to step up and flip Theta, compared to 228, who's at a severe disadvantage that they have to go across the water to do it. So, maybe they were hoping that they could have such a strong line of fire down onto Theta that they could prevent SJR from even peaking, but it seemed to me like right off the bat, SJR had the advantage of the power position. They were able to keep 228 buttoned up in the city, not allow them to really lay down any effective fire to push SJR back and allow their lights to move forward and take Theta. So that was a really tough place to play from. So 228 decided to move down from Upper City to respond basically at how advantageous that position was. It wasn't a very good position. But as we see here then, SJR moves across the water into the grove, and even though their fire is a little bit scattered at first, that new position gives them a severe advantage once they do get into where they wanted to be. And you can see they just start laying it down onto 228. 228 has very little, they can't go anywhere, and here we see they reached out through the rest of the teams. Because of that slight elevation, they're able to fire over the heads of everybody else and finish off that Timberwolf, and then are able to move just to another target. We have the light mech comes up and assists with killing Morgan and that Timberwolf up on the left side, and you see everybody immediately switch to the next target. That mech goes down, and then you just see a swath of laser fire go into the next available target. While this is happening, 228 moves up the water and tries to get into brawl range, but they don't necessarily have those like small pulse SRM builds or either medium small SRM builds. So really they're moving up closer, but it doesn't give them as much of an advantage. They're still fighting from the water. It's tough to get their shots on target, and SJR moves back and is able to essentially focus fire on anything that peaks because they're not pressed up against the rocks like they were before, and are able to just shred down the remaining few mechs. Majority of SJR's mechs are in pretty good shape. The mechs that 228 did kill were focused down pretty well. Not a lot of spread going on, but unfortunately they weren't able to lay down effective fire for the duration, and it goes SJR's way.
Yeah, again, that like you said, it comes down to positioning. So much of MechWarrior, there's a lot of comments on weapon systems, things like that, obviously, but a lot of how a strategy goes, or how a game goes, one way or the other, is did you get to the right spot at the right time? If you're not at the right spot at the right time, it's really hard to pull a match out, and that's what we saw. I mean, you can make an argument maybe there's more talent on one side, or one side has a better drop deck or something like that, but I don't think you can argue the fact that SJR got to the better spot sooner, and that really was what got them the win. It was all about positioning, and that positioning comes as a result of the intel, out of knowing, okay, 228's doing this, because I very much doubt that SJR would have moved up into the grove, that area on the other side of the bridge, if 228 was still up in the upper city. That doesn't make sense, but they knew that they had moved down. They knew when it was happening, and they were able to make that corresponding move quickly, and 228 was then forced to react, and they didn't react quick enough.
And one thing that is important to note here, too, is SJR was not the one who picked this side of the map. 228 did. So SJR used the position that they were given essentially at the last minute, and they used it well. So 228 must have had a plan, but something didn't go according to plan. So it'd be interesting to see what they were hoping to accomplish, and then what went wrong. And, we can speculate all day, but that's pretty much just what we saw, and our theories behind it. But it would be interesting to see what actually happened there.
If I had to guess, and this is, again, just a guess, I think 228 liked the concept of having Upper City. It is the tallest part of this map that's at least playable, and they wanted that height advantage. You have really good sight lines of enemy movement and things from Upper City. Other than what's obscured by a building here or there, you have Overwatch essentially. But that initial positioning by SJR to have two separate locations where they're trading from that are offset to kind of remove some of the cover that 228 had in those buildings, I think really ruined that strategy for 228. That's why 228 moved from Lower City. It wasn't, before SJR pushed, 228 moved. So, and I think that move came from the fact that SJR had two different firing angles, and that's in a lot of ways the perfect counter in a ranged versus ranged deck when you have guys up in Upper City.
So we're 2 games in now. It'd be interesting to hear from the community out there watching right now. But what do you think of Conquest so far in a comp environment? I mean, we've seen it before, so it's nothing new. But in terms of this match, how do you think Conquest has changed what we're seeing versus, say, if it was a skirmish?
Well, I'm seeing some comments already before you even brought that up, because as we've mentioned, we're several minutes behind what's going on in chat, but a lot of comments, looks like a lot of really positive attitudes towards Conquest. Think that it creates some different gameplay, and I agree with what a lot of people are saying. It forces more dynamic play in that you have to move in order to prevent losing by caps, but the kind of other sort of side effect that we're seeing that we talked about, especially with this match, is it forces some more strategy. We saw it with 228 trying to do a control the 4 outside cap points on Caustic Valley and do kind of a fast range deck to do that. And we saw it with River City with SJR trying to control Theta and having close access to that kind of shall we say swing cap point. Both sides have 2 cap points and there's one in the middle. That's the swing cap point on that map, and they were able to position themselves effectively to deal with that. So to be honest, and I think chat seems to agree, it seems like Conquest is really adding, it's to use an engineering term, sorry everybody, it's a value added thing to have Conquest involved in these comp plays.
Absolutely. I think at the very least in 12v12, I feel like Conquest is kind of a must. In 8v8s, I think you can get away with Skirmish, but I do still think Conquest really will add a lot of flavor to it. But in 12v12s, it's almost like Conquest has to happen.
Yeah.
It just spreads everybody out. You have a lot more individual fighting in different areas. So that for me as a shoutcaster, there's a hell of a lot more zooming around going on. Before with 8v8 Skirmish, I could just look at one thing and see the entire match. But now I'm sweeping in and out, just trying to find out what's going on where. So, that's definitely tough. But, you can start to predict things as you learn the teams and learn their strategies and watch their movement on the minimap and stuff like that. You can get to where you need to go. But I don't mind zooming around. I'm not complaining. I think that's fantastic. I love being able to cover multiple parts of the map and stuff, and I think that's really cool. So, and we can go back to the instant replays and stuff, and it'll be cool if we can get the alternate replays as well. I think that would be fantastic, and be able to see from multiple angles for each match.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. Everyone in chat, as you're watching this, feel free to give us any sort of constructive feedback, something you might like to see that you think we could do for another Shoutcast. Bandit and I did some Shoutcasts for MRBC Season 6. We're really hoping to do a bunch more for MRBC Season 7, kind of bring some more competitive gameplay for MechWarrior Online out into the greater world. So it's hopefully you guys have some ideas, things that you might like to see, things that might make the experience more enjoyable for you as viewers. I know we enjoy shoutcasting, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to shoutcast if you guys don't enjoy it. So feel free to give that information as well.
And saw somebody asking in chat that it would be cool. It'd be cool to see the team leaders talking afterwards. And I actually plan to do a little bit of a post-game show. Nothing too extensive, but I do want to bring the team leaders into a team speak and talk to them about what they thought, how they thought it went, and stuff like that. So I do plan on doing that. I got both of the team leaders on board, and we are definitely going to do that after the match. We want to hear from them and see what they have to say. So we are headed into Canyon Network. This is back to the 3-3-3-3. Once again, 228 was able to pick the side of the map, but with 12v12s and stuff, who knows? This is a much smaller map to cram that many mechs into.
Yeah, this will be interesting. Again, ranged or brawl. I know we've seen strategies work where people have brought jump jet mechs and just bounced over and over the hills a little bit in order to get the advantage, and some people have brought ranged mechs and just sat in the corner. So see how it plays.
We're looking over here. Red is now SJR, and I'm seeing Stalker 4N 6 large laser, Stalker 4N 6 large laser, Banshee 3M 5 medium laser, 3 large pulse lasers. So they definitely got some range to work with. But they'd still have that punch at close range. Not necessarily SRM punch, but SJR does get to Theta first with their lights, and they are getting in there quick. Let's see if they can flip it. They do, in fact, flip it, so they got the early Theta advantage, but they immediately withdraw from Theta now that they have it. But interesting movement over here, jumping down into the pit and challenging the lights just to keep them from moving up to Theta and taking it back. Oh, I saw Goss hit somebody. He's using Goss over on the 228 side.
228 is breaking out the Highlanders, of all things. So I really am curious to see how these Highlanders do. It looks like they're running some laser AC5 builds, I believe. Let me see if I can pull one of these up. Yeah, 3 large lasers, 2 AC5s on a Highlander 732B. Not something you see every day, especially not competitive play, but we'll see how they can make them work.
So I wanted to hop into Magician's perspective here. We got 228 kind of coming in hard on that left side. And,
it looks like
SJR's kind of running a little bit of a split here.
Yeah, it looks like 228 might want to push this Epsilon corner. They've got a couple of SJR guys down there, and they seem to be pretty aggressive on that corner right now.
So this is the Quick Draw 5K running 4 ER larges on this heavy. Let's pop back out into overview here. So SJR has Theta still, so they are clocking up the points. 228 is spread out between Epsilon and Gamma, but it looks to me like SJR's got some light mechs moving into the
looks like they've got
here.
lights going in the backfield, trying to distract a little bit.
Let's see if he gets out with his life. Oh, he gets legged, and he goes down. Criven in the fire starter in the back over pushed a little bit, and on his retreat, they landed a shot on the leg and were able to take him down. His buddy over here has decided to retreat, and that's probably a good idea. I wouldn't challenge Gamma. That's stretching it a little bit too thin. But another mech goes down. Blackjack 3, Aeroside goes down for SJR.
Two
percentages
quick kills there, and the percentages seem to be favoring SJR.
Oh, that was a good airstrike by 228 there, and then a return airstrike over on 228. Percentages are definitely looking more in favor of SJR, but being down 2 mechs, that could easily swing in another direction here.
And it looks like 228's going to try and push their advantage, having 1 extra light mech. Some of their lights look like they're moving up towards Kappa, and they're closing in on SJR's light mechs here. Their 2 remaining light mechs. Remember, they're down a light mech at this point, so 228 might want to push that advantage just with the numbers alone for lights.
So they are jumping on the light over here. We have a 2v1 skirmish. 228 mechs jumping
it's
on
about
SJR.
To be a 3v2. Here comes the other light mechs.
They're getting a lot of really good fire on that guy, though. This is a pretty intense match over here. Let me hop into a cockpit. So they are working him down. He is open backcore. Alpha is about to go down in possibly 1 shot, but everybody's heat is running up strong here.
And SJR is they're forced to let those light mechs try and fend for themselves in a 3v2 because they've got 228 lined up between Epsilon and Gamma and a little bit of a firing line.
1 leg goes down, or no, it's a shoulder. Shoulder goes out. So they got a little bit of a reversal here now. 1 SJR or 228 mech versus, well, the Blackjacks are coming to help too.
Yeah,
so
and
this
here
guy
comes
is
SJR.
smartly backing around the corner.
Let's see if 228 pushes the advantage. They've only got, looks like 5 mechs engaged with 228
And a
right
leg
now.
goes down for the 228 Arctic Cheetah, and he goes down very quickly. Marshall does, in fact, go down. His teammates smartly back out, but they did some significant damage to the light mechs for SJR. That could cost them at the end. Losing Marshall might have been worth the amount of damage that they put on the fire starter.
And here comes a beautiful airstrike. Let's see if it hits anyone here on SJR. And no, they managed to get out of the way just in time.
So,
man, this is everyone's really beat up. It looks like not too many people willing to do a lot of poking at this point. You've got mechs that are really, really hurting. So we're going to see a lot of, if you can place that 1 critical shot, can you get the kill?
Man, everybody's so fanned out, and everybody's just kind of playing for themselves right now, which is perfectly fine. It's kind of what you need to do at this point, is rely on your team to make their shots. Now, they have 228 has the kill advantage, but being so hurt right now, and on top of that, not having Theta, they're going to have some tough decisions to make.
Down goes another Timberwolf just went down for 228. It is now even on kills. And I think the big problem for 228 they're facing right now is their assault mechs are a lot more beat up than SJR's.
And SJR definitely has a lot of angles to choose from. They can hit any of these mechs from so many different angles. This guy right here, he can't go anywhere. He's got those stalkers on the right side staring him down. If he takes 1 bad step backwards, he's toast. So he's kind of forced to either bail completely out or just continue trading on this 1 little firing line. And
here's a 228 Arctic Cheetah way up by Kappa. He's trying to harass a couple of SJR mechs, maybe take them out of the fight a little bit. And looks like he's doing a decent job, at least, of getting some of their attention. And it's the Blackjack seems to be hunting him down, but he's long since bugged out of there.
So yeah, he's tying up 3 mechs just by himself, but while this is happening, 228 needs to continue working these firing lanes and just trying to work an advantage in their favor. It's tough to do, but this guy seems to be doing work here. Who is this? The Beef. The Beef is sitting there in his Enforcer 4R. Every time that guy peeks out, He gets his shots on board. He's still in pretty decent condition considering the amount of fire that's been trading. So, once again, though, one bad step and these stalkers over on the right side here can shut him up.
Yeah.
He
And
can't
you know what?
be peeking that right side.
Down
It's
goes
so hard.
another SJR mech actually just went down. And you know what? I think right here, Gut in the Stalker 4N, he is fresh as all get out. He's going to be a big problem. If he gets a little more aggressive, he could really change the flavor of this match. But right now, SJR is down to one light mech. I think 228 has to press the advantage with their light mechs. They need those light mechs engaged at this point. And it looks like
they have to do something. They're losing on caps. It's going to have to turn into something very quickly here because they can't stay stagnant anymore. It's going to draw out into a loss. 684. I hope somebody is watching the scoreboard because even if you take one cap point at this point, it's not going to be enough. And so they need to it sucks, but it's going to have to devolve into some sort of brawl or some sort of massive push. Or you're screwed. But
yeah, they just got another guy down. But 228's starting to lose mechs now. They're down to they've already lost 5 mechs, and only 4 have gone down for SJR. This is quickly turned. Correction, 5. Another one just went down. This is even, but like you said, the caps
scoreboard's going to take it. They reacted. The final push was too slow. They didn't do enough, and the timer ends with several mechs left on the field. Both teams very beat up, but 228 definitely was on the short end of that one. It was going to at that point take a miracle or some really well placed shots to be able to toss that back. But once again, this is Conquest. There are no ties, and that was decided on cap resources.
Yeah, and the other part of that, both teams were very beat up, but you have to consider the fact that looking at those teams in terms of fresh mechs, 228's fresh mechs were lights and mediums. SJR had fresh stalkers and banshees, and that in among itself, just percentage-wise, is similar, but in terms of actual armor and firepower on the field, it doesn't compare. I think it's certainly an interesting strategy with the heavy tonnage that 228 brought were things like Highlanders, which I think what they were hoping was for some jump jets, some easier maneuverability with the kind of varying terrain heights on Canyon and the different levels. But in reality, I think if they had to do that again, they might have rather have brought some stalkers or things that maybe can peak a little better than a Highlander. Put a little more firepower on it. I think that certainly might have been something they'd want to do again differently next time, but we'll have to find out at another point.
Yep, so that goes now 3 in favor of Steel Jaguar. I think some people might at this point be a little bit surprised. I heard a lot of people going into this one heavily favoring 228, but Steel Jaguar has definitely come ready to play, and they're doing a very good job staying tight and making their shots, and their movement is very good. This might be pretty new to a lot of these units that, they've practiced 8v8 skirmishes so long that flipping it over, it could be just who prepared better, who went into this practicing the most and stuff like that. I mean, given this is pretty much a practice for these guys, but hopefully they come away from this knowing what they need to work on and what they need to prepare for. Mm-hmm. Assuming, we move forward and have to start playing Conquest in comp matches and have to start doing 12v12s or something like that. So, hopefully both teams can come away with this, with something from this experience. And it's been a thrill to watch. I mean, I don't think you can say that this has been boring.
No.
I think this has been fantastic. It's been... very good exchanges. It's been very good movement. Not a lot of stagnant action here. I've been more than pleased with how this has been going, and so I hope our viewers are enjoying it as well.
Yeah, and this was kind of, I think one of the question marks from a overall perspective that we had, like you touched on, was 228 had so much success in MRBC. Especially playing against SJR. SJR did not have the competitive season that we're used to seeing out of them. And I will point out that lately, it seems, in public queue, we've been noticing SJR running more often, maybe some guys kind of coming back to the game and things, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe caught a little people by surprise, just people thinking maybe SJR was kind of on the downswing, having some tough times, and 228 was on the rise. I'm not trying to put 228 down or anything, but it certainly seems like SJR has come out with a little more focus than we've seen from them lately, and really want to prove that they're still one of the best teams in the game. And 228, these are close, and it's just one of those things where they can look at these matches, and a lot of it seems like it's not a matter of, oh, SJR has better players, or oh, SJR is more skilled, whatever. It seems like it's a matter of, what, if 228 had made that move just a little bit earlier, in this case on Canyon Network, I think they made the right move getting those lights kind of pushing up and engaging, but maybe a little bit earlier. They had the one light advantage. They could have maybe pressed that a little sooner. It seems like they're doing all the right things. Maybe the timing's just a little bit off. And part of that could be just the fact that they're used to 8v8s, and now running 12v12, some of it plays a little differently.
And I think one advantage to both of these teams, regardless of our commentary and any advice we have or anything we've seen, they can come back and look at this and use this as a tool to see, okay, what could we have done different? Maybe we're talking out of our ass and don't know what the hell we're talking about, and that's totally fine, but they can still look at the mini-map at the very least. Maybe my camera angles aren't what they need to see, but they can look at the arrows on the mini-map and see, okay, you guys were way too far up, or they were here, how come that call wasn't made, or something like that, They can use this as a tool, and I am happy that I can provide that to them and give them that perspective that they can go back and it's almost like it's an additional level of their practice, that they can come back and look at it, especially since, nothing really is on the line here. This is a practice for them, but they can take this forward, and potentially both teams can become stronger because of it, and hopefully we can do that for some other teams too.
Yeah, that's the other thing to point out. This really is just a glorified practice. I mean, we asked these two teams, hey, can we shoutcast? They were nice enough to do this for us. So, they're not playing really for anything other than to get better. And the best way to get better is to play, is to challenge yourself. Play the top teams, and these are two very good teams playing each other. So hopefully they both learn something for it and are better for doing so.
And this is really the first time we've seen a semi-competitive environment where this meta has been used.
Yeah.
So, this could very well influence, maybe what they thought would work. Maybe it doesn't work quite on that map or something like that. And we could be changing decks through this practice. And it's exciting to see what they're going to come up with going forward. But I am going to do another giveaway of premium time codes. I will do the winner announcement in chat. It is based on who was active in chat in the last 10 minutes, so make sure you guys say something. And definitely make sure you give me a follow, so when I do send you your codes, it goes straight to your inbox instead of to your spam folder. Because if you don't follow me, it puts it in the other folder, and nobody ever looks at that. So we are just watching the replay here. It's getting towards the end. I think a lot of what I said as the action was as it was happening still kind of holds true here. 228 was kind of forced into a very stagnant position. They couldn't move very much because of the overwatch from so many different angles. They were making decent trades from those positions, but they were so far apart from each other that they weren't able to push it in one direction or the other. And like I said before, I think 228's ultimate decision to move, and a lot of that was influenced by SJR's decision to push. I did see those mechs actually moving forward. They were using those fresher stalkers, as you said. They were leading the charge and getting in there to finish the job. And as we see here, so a lot of that final little bit of combat could have been influenced more by SJR's decision to move, but 228 definitely had to do something sooner. I don't know if they were hoping the lights could get something done.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe they just were underestimating the speed of the tickets being spent. Maybe they needed to call their move at like 500 instead of 600 or something like that. Apparently there was an arty headshot. I just saw that in the chat during the replay. So it'd be interesting to see what happened there. But yeah, that's that. I mean, we haven't seen a match like this in quite some time that ends in a winner like this. It's, I mean, bunch of dead people on both sides, but still a lot of people left alive.
Yeah, I think 228 had the right idea. They had the light mech advantage, and they did push up the Kappa, and they gave some medium mech support with those lights because SJR was countering their light push with the Blackjack. But you're right, it was too late. And I think that's something that we've seen in a couple matches now. The strategies aren't incorrect. The trades are not outmatched. It's just a timing thing. And it seems like SJR has the advantage in maybe the intel that relates to then how the drop caller calls the match. And it's giving them the advantage between what I think you would say are two fairly even teams. And it's coming down to they have the knowledge that something's happening quicker, and then therefore they make the decision to counter or do the correct strategy as a result quicker. And 228, so far it seems like they've had all the right ideas, just a second too late. The light mech push to Kappa I thought was definitely the right idea. We mentioned it during the cast. They needed to take advantage of that early kill on the light mech, and I think they really didn't do that. And that might have been, in my opinion, I think that was the difference in the game. If they could have gotten Kappa earlier on, if they could have gotten a little more kill advantage earlier on, at that point, the more kill advantages you get, the more aggressive you can be, the more angles you can try and find. When it's even on kills or close to even on kills, it's a lot harder to do so. So, again, it was the right idea, just a little too late.
So we're moving into Tourmaline Desert now. Now, in the old meta, we saw a hell of a lot of standoffs, but that was also on skirmish. Conquest is definitely going to add something interesting here. The Theta being so close to the hoop and stuff like that. Yep. A lot of really close-in ridge peeking. I would be surprised to see a team go hard ER larges in this situation as we saw before. We'll have to see. Is it going to be brawl? We haven't seen a brawl versus brawl yet at all, which is very surprising to me because I really truly thought with all the changes that they made that's what the meta was going to kind of devolve into. We haven't seen range win over brawl yet, so perhaps this is what they're going to do. We've seen, mid-range versus mid-range. We've seen brawl versus range, and then brawl actually won. So, but it's really map dependent, I think. And Tourmaline is a lot of distance to cover. However, there's still a lot of random cover around near the key points of the map. And we are back to 700 tons, so we could see an emphasis on the lights for the cap battles. Maybe they want that one extra light so they can win 4v3 on a point against lights. Or maybe we'll see just an overall medium, a very medium but fast-moving team, something like that. Maybe they don't need the lights as much when they go hard brawl, fast brawl. So I'd be interested to see what they decide that they're going to do.
I think that might be an interesting strategy. Maybe if you want to brawl, you bring a lot of 100-tonners, a bunch of Atlas, and then 3-4 Atlas, and then some light. You fill the rest with light mechs to kind of deal with the caps. The only problem with going with a brawl on a map like Tourmaline is it's so big, and with Conquest, if you go against a range that spreads out like 228 did on Caustic, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try the same sort of strategy that you might see. You might just get out capped and not be able to close the distance in time.
And congratulations, TK Sachs. You're our first winner of a premium time code. And number 2 is Corstay, one of our very own Marine mechs, Corstay. Congratulations. Excellent. You guys are in there. I'll send the time codes out after the match here when I get some time. But make sure you follow. I'm sure Corstag has, but make sure you guys follow me. It makes it easier to send those codes over to you. But cool. So the 228 once again gets to pick their side of the map. So we'll see how that decision plays into the results of this next match here. But 228's definitely going to have to try something different. And the one thing they haven't tried yet is Brawl. Maybe that's what they're going to try here. Maybe they're going to stick with what they know best. You know, who knows? How? What would you do in Tourmaline when what you've been doing hasn't been working? Would you go crazy? Would you just try to refine? I mean, it is a practice, but you still got to try and figure out what works.
It is a practice, but I think 228. I hesitate to say 228 should go crazy because, as we've mentioned a couple different times, it doesn't feel like these matches like 228's just completely outclassed. It feels like they're making correct moves, correct decisions, but the intel maybe is their weak spot. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the timing, coming down. They're just not quite in sync. The strategy with the actual what's happening during the game, and maybe going to brawl kind of gets everyone lined back up and gets the strategy back to where they want it to be, sort of thing. But again, with Tourmaline, there's so much distance. It's tough to say. You could do brawl and just move in a murder ball from cap point to cap point, and hopefully you don't take a lot of damage in doing so. Or you go range and have some lights running around getting that, but then maybe you run into the same situation that 228 ran up against in the first match in Caustic, where they had, they were going after cap point, and SJR eventually used that to kind of lure them into a situation where they could close the distance in a brawl. Like I said, I'm biased. Personally, I would love to see Brawl versus Brawl. I just don't know if Tourmaline is the map for that.
That's true, but everybody's going to be fighting over Theta. I mean, you're going to have those side skirmishes, but we've seen a good fight over Theta thus far. So I feel like at the very least, if you go Brawl and then you control Theta, you have, as we saw with SJR, you kind of have you can make the decision when it's time to move. And SJR made the decision and jumped on the assaults. They waited and waited, but they waited for the right time, and they jumped at the right time, and it worked in their favor. So the primary difference is, I think they had a lot more cover inside the Caldera. I don't think they could have been able to necessarily do that as well in the old map. Maybe they could have. Who knows? But those higher walls and stuff really allows them to sit there and hold Theta. They're more protected from outside fire, and then wait for the proper time to strike. Now on Tourmaline, will that work? I don't know. Even though there is a lot of stuff around Hoop, it's not a circle encasing you. Ranged mechs can start working up one side or the other and try and drive fire in from a particular angle, and they don't necessarily have to pull themselves horribly out of position that could allow you to pounce on them as a brawl deck. So I feel like holding Theta as a brawl deck would be a lot harder on Tourmaline than it is on Caustic.
Yeah, that's a good point, and also a good point with Theta. It's every map, now that I think about it, SJR has controlled Theta, and SJR has won the game. Maybe that's, an actual strategy. Maybe it's just a conspiracy theory. Who knows? But there you go, competitive pilots. The next match that you have that's Conquest, focus your strategy around Theta, and you're guaranteed to win. It's science. Cannot be argued.
You are a rocket scientist, right, MD?
Yeah, I would know these things.
You would know these things.
There
Science.
You go. I've now solved everyone's competitive match problems.
What happens when both teams do it? Unstoppable force versus the immovable object? I don't know.
That's what happens. It's terrible.
But it looks to me like we are going to be getting started shortly here. Both teams are in lobby and readied up. We're just waiting for the go.
Yeah, I hesitate to say that we're going to see brawling. As much as I love a good brawl, it's just the range, like you said, the ability to shoot into Theta from various angles. We'll have to see what they choose, but hold my breath.
But you never know until you get in there, right? So let's take a look. 228 definitely has to do something different, so we'll see if they can come back, figure out the formula that they need, and take these last 2 matches against Steel Jaguar. Just loading up now. Let's go ahead and hit all the magic keys. I got ER larges from SJR, large laser, quick draw, ER large, quick draw, lots of quick draws. Holy crap! Quick draw, quick draw, quick draw. Stalker, stalker, stalker. They're
Looks
going
like
long range.
Straight ER large for 228 as well. This is going to be another lightsaber match coming up here.
And we got immediate trades right out the gate. These guys start with a firing lane across each other. And I'm not sure whether either team realized that they'd be seeing each other so quick. It almost seemed like a slightly delayed response, but they are shredding the crap out of that Hellbringer over on 228's side right now. He stepped out a little bit too far and got taken down to 60%. That's a lot of damage for right off the gate. As long as he still has all of his components left, though, he can filter to the back and hopefully still be effective for his team. But it looks to me like, once again, SJR takes Theta. They haven't taken a third point yet, but they do control Theta right off the bat. But 228 is kind of moving together. They're actually over by that power position that we used to see in the old meta and old leagues. They're all standing out in the open and trying to shoot the same targets as each other, while SJR plays whack-a-mole through the varying degrees of cover here and tries to lay their shots down. So looks to me like there are mechs being heavily damaged on both sides. This Stalker is getting pretty well ripped to pieces here and gets a nice airstrike right on top of his face. Let me see who this is. Gut down to 69% now. He's taking quite a bit of fire from that power position.
And that Hellbringer is down to 38% for 228. He is hanging on by a thread at this point.
Does he have any weapons left at this point? That's
take
crazy.
A look, see what he's got. He has one Clan ER large laser. It is, of course, in his head. And down he goes, killed by the Magician.
Very good shot. They did get a nice arty strike in there, though, dealing additional damage. But very good trades on both sides. SJR did get their third point. One of their light mechs went down to Kappa and took it. Another good airstrike pounding into SJR, though. These Stalkers are definitely taking a beating, but they are doing some pretty good work.
And one goes down. We lose a quick draw for SJR. Another interesting thing with the drop deck, 228 did not bring a light mech.
So they brought a lot more long-range shooters to prepare.
A lot more long-range shooters, but again, they're gonna come up against this cap problem unless they get something done here quickly. They're already down on cap points. They're already down on tickets.
And a lot of you know what though, the damage is very even on 228's side. They're very well spread, and SJR has some mechs critically low. G-Man down
just
to
got crushed.
19%. He's got to be sticked at this point. There's no way he has any weapons left, and I think he knows it. So a lot of these SJR mechs are taking a massive beating
correct.
here.
G-Man is effectively out of the fight. He is sticked.
What about Gut? Is Gut sticked as well?
Gut is sticked as well. Both Stalkers out of the fight at this point.
That's looking really good for 228. Honestly, they're down on caps, but I wouldn't change a goddamn thing right now. As long as they can keep this up. They got another big strike down here. Let's see. They do get a kill.
Magician and Gut just went down.
They got a kill with the strike. Excellent strike on the backside there. That was good, well placed.
Another 3 quick draws down and a Stalker. The Magician was in a quick draw and G-Man was in a Stalker. I apologize for that. G-Man is a stick. This is not going SJR's way at all. They have an advantage in the cap points, but they still need another 450 in order to win this match. And
228 has decided they are making their move. They are moving up in a nice tight clump, or a little bit spread out, but either way they can get all their guns to bear, and they are moving up towards Theta to try and finish the job. They must know that they have been putting their shots effectively on fire. These 2 poor Stalkers over here are just having a conversation. They're done. And this is going to be
and this
brutal.
is the right move by 228. It's early enough in the match that the cap tickets won't hurt them as much. They have the mech advantage significantly. They know it, and they're going to take advantage of that extra firepower and see how many kills they can get off real quick here.
Stalkers are actually still alive over there and are distracting a little bit anyways. They haven't gone down yet, and they've actually scattered 228. Let's see whether SJR can start putting their shots and maybe take out some of these weaker 228 mechs.
And another 228 mech just went down, a quick draw. Morgan just went down, but we lost another SJR mech during that time. It is now...
That was the one of the Stalkers went down, so that's not that big of a loss. So the guys who have guns left, if they can effectively put fire down... Oh, we got a little bit of a skirmish over on the right side here. They're taking down one of the blackjacks.
Another 228 mechs down. A couple of SJR mechs in the backfield really harassing these guys, and they've got 228 split up. They're losing their numerical advantage at this point.
Yeah, they've got guys all over the field. They spent way too much time on those sticked stalkers.
6 now down for SJR. Is still a lot closer than expected from that early trade there.
Yeah, SJR is definitely doing a really good job, as they scattered 228, focusing down what they could and doing some work. But 228 is starting to recall and get back into their original power position that worked so well for them. The Stalker is taking a beating now, 1v5 essentially. And
down he goes.
And he does go down, so that's another set of lasers down for SJR. But that was a pretty good comeback by SJR there. And hopefully, 228 can realize that, even though it was looking really good for them, one wrong move can really put them down. They are taking Theta back, though, and they're going to continue working those tickets. With 228 now kind of stalling out, the urgency is on 228 once again. They need to worry about cap points again. They're working this blackjack. Oh, they do get him before he can get away, and they're stepping up to try and retake Theta now. So the cap was good for SJR. It did cost them a blackjack, which sucks.
And they caught another blackjack out in the open here. It looks like that might have been Glory, I think. Got caught out in the open and is now just... No, that was not Glory. That's
Ghost.
Yeah, Ghost got caught out in the open in the blackjack. I'm not sure where. Oh, there's Glory, hiding in the corner there. But yeah, you're right. 228, I think, is now approaching this a little more timid than they did before. They got spread out. They had a couple of SJR mechs behind them, a couple of mechs to the side, and I think they got a little over eager, and they spread out and allowed SJR to come back into this game. Now they've got to get the cap points back in their favor, which they have. It's 3-2.
I think they're sending their Raven
their kills at this
way
point.
wide. Yeah, and this might work for them. It's a very long range mech. If they can get him an angle where he can just start pelting them without taking much return fire, that could be very advantageous to them. But 228 is starting to move up and try and get this secret hidden angle on him. This could be very good or very bad. Let's see if he even looks the right way. Uh-oh.
Yeah, this quick draw here from 228 seems to be
Start calling it. Start calling it. Nobody made the shot. But they could run him down. And it looks like that's what they're going to do. They saw him go. He's going for Kappa alone, and they are going to pounce on him. Let's see if that move across the middle, though. They might have good overwatch. This could cost those blackjacks. Here we go with the exchange here. They are pretty long range. Those blackjacks might make it out of there effectively. But this could be a free mech for us. Oh, they didn't lose the blackjack. Shot in the back. What a trade. They did end up taking that quick draw, but lost the blackjack and a legged cheetah in the process.
Cheetah's down. One more blackjack over there, and the last remaining mech other than that is a Raven at Sigma. And there's a quick draw for 228 that was hanging out in the backfield and is now in a good position to try and counter this Raven capping Sigma for SJR.
So yeah, they are taking Gamma, but now we're starting to look at the scoreboard. Tickets are flying here. They have Kappa, but they're going to lose it. They have Gamma, but they're going to lose it. They're capping Sigma. What happens if this Raven turns Sigma and lives? Oh, he's actually pulling back. He's getting ready for the fight.
Yeah, he's got a quick draw on top of him. He's got to get out of there.
Yep, so now all we got left is Kappa. That's about to flip, and it's going to go hard capped in favor of 228 for the finish here. That was a hell of a comeback, but that early beatdown that they took from 228, it's hard to come back from that fully all the way. Let's see if he can get a jump on this guy. Let's see if he's hurt at all. He's got a cord shoulder Thunderbolt 5SS. No way he's running an XL in there. This is a tall order for this Raven to be able to get anything done against this guy.
Oh, that was a Thunderbolt. My
Oh, he
apologies.
didn't have an XL!
He was running an XL.
Running an XL.
Oh, no.
Well,
how could you be putting an XL
it's not
in that?
gonna. Well, it's an ER large laser mech. I mean, it's that. I'm not gonna criticize him.
This Raven's got to take advantage of that cap point. There's no one there.
No,
He's got to get on that cap point.
It's too late.
Yep,
228 wins by caps with one SJR mech remaining. So they did change up kind of how they were doing. They moved kind of like we saw with the old like Sig versus Smoke Jays match where they moved together. All of their fire was on target, and Mech Warrior Online has stopped working. Perfect timing. Goodness gracious. So I unfortunately wasn't able to show the scoreboard there. I apologize. It was out of my control. But yeah, that's they moved together. They played the power position. SJR played the whack-a-mole position, and 228 did a very good job at hitting anything that peaked. Obviously, that initial Hellbringer was a hard loss, just taking so much damage right off the bat. Jesus, that's loud. That was rough. I mean, that was an instant trade right off the bat there. Instant trade. And 228 paid for it, but then they got into that power position and they played it very well, and they moved with it, but then they started spreading out. And, you know, those two stick stalkers, I went over there and watched them. I'm like, I expected them to just go down and be done. But they lived for a while, and they helped distract those 228 mechs. You know, not necessarily causing those 228 mechs to take damage while they were distracted, but they were keeping that fire off of their teammates by forcing it onto those stalkers. That's pretty crazy that they were able to almost come back from that just through whatever focus they could muster, and they did very well. Almost coming back from that. That was pretty fun to watch. But 228 had the early lead, and they were able to ride that in then for the finish.
Yeah, I mean, that was surprising that 228 had such an advantage at that point. I think they were up, 4 kills when they decided to move in. And SJR had a Blackjack and a Raven, I think, were the two mechs that were really kind of got him behind 228. And then those Stalkers on the other side were just... They were big targets, and 228 wanted to take them down, and they let the couple of mechs behind them really do a ton of damage and close up the gap between that, or else that could have been a really quick runaway match, and it wound up being a lot closer. I think really because 228 might have gotten a little overconfident, might have tried to say, this game's over, we're just going to go out and spread out and get the kills, and they spread out a little too much. And it nearly cost them, but they were able to pull it back, group back up together, and take down the mechs one at a time and finish that match off for the win.
Absolutely. So let's go see if we can pull the replay here. I'm going to go ahead and do another giveaway. So 3 minutes from now, you'll hear me say it. It's based on who's active in chat for the last 10 minutes. So go ahead and say some stuff, and then I'll pull 2 more codes. And then I'll do some mech bays after drop 5, too. So let's go find us a replay. Hell, let's go right back to the beginning. That was such a fast start.
Yeah, I think you're right though. Both teams were surprised on that. Those 2 lances basically face to face in a range drop.
They started very close to each other too. Like look at the mini map, just so close to each other, well within everybody's optimal range. And it looked to me like SJR took the most advantage by really taking that Hellbringer, who kind of overstepped a little bit.
Yep.
So they picked him out of the bunch, and they knew he was the furthest out mech. He actually kind of hung around, too. Like, he actually stepped out further, and that was kind of a big mistake on his part, thinking that he could maybe win the trade, and then just pounded down into the red. So,
and I think the other aspect of that, though, is that 228 moved up all of their forces to one spot. Again, we saw SJR with kind of 2 trade locations, 228 with 1 trade location, but this time, because of the nature of the cover, where it's kind of like one long ridge along there, it allowed them, rather than trading from small buildings but kind of a larger formation, it allowed them to be able to basically focus more mechs on the same target than SJR was able to do, whereas previously on River City, SJR had the advantage by splitting their ranged mechs into 2 groups because they were taking away the buildings, which are smaller cover where you can shoot from one side or the other side, and taking away the cover. They weren't able to do that as well at that initial trade on Tourmaline, and I think that's really why 228 got up on those initial trades, is because they were able to focus, the majority of their firepower on a single mech. SJR was unable to take away the cover that 228 was using, and it gave them the advantage.
So one thing I do have to throw out there that is important to remember, that this is not a competitive match. This is a scrimmage, so both teams are using this as a practice, and they may be trying different things to see what works and what doesn't. So you really can't judge either team by what we see here, because if they are trying different things and it doesn't work, you can't fault them for that, because they're preparing for that match. And when that match happens, we can see, okay, where are they at? So definitely, give them the benefit of the doubt here. Give both teams the benefit of the doubt. They're doing this for our entertainment and for their practice, and we have to thank them for that, of giving us something to watch. It is exciting to watch. They're not just dicking around. They're trying. But who knows if with their decks they're seeing if certain mechs are viable, things like that. So if anything, just come away with this as seeing 2 good teams playing, but you can't say necessarily one team is better than the other at this point, because you don't have the whole picture. So make sure you guys give them some respect here.
Well, and now we have Alpine Peaks, 12v12, unlimited tonnage. I'm expecting 12 Lerm DDCs versus 12 Lerm DDCs. So we'll see if they live up to my expectations or not.
Can you have them give me an invite? I got kicked.
Yeah, I'll get you straightened out. Either that, or since we have the beef on here, maybe we should do 12 Dire Stars versus 12 Dire Stars. That might be an interesting match as well.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody shoot each other. Like, if each mech shoots one mech, it's all who picks the correct mechs
first. Yeah,
you get 2 chances in the Dire Star. So choose wisely. Oh man, that would be insane. I don't think they're gonna do that, but that would be insane. Just see all those direwolves with like 9 PPCs, and they all just shoot and shut down at the same time. Just one
I'm
shot
not
the
sure
entire
how
team.
you're supposed to call that too. Oh, another 8 mechs just went down.
You know what I would call? I would say, "Hey, this is gonna be freaking funny," and then just start laughing, because I do need to throw that out there to this guy. This last one is kind of just to see what the hell happens. It's unlimited tonnage. They can do whatever the hell they want. So you can't read into this one too much. And it's on Alpine Peaks Conquest, which I like. I think Alpine Peaks Conquest is fun.
Yeah, Alpine Peaks Conquest is a good map.
And
Alpine
I'm glad
Peaks
to hear they're not
else.
taking it out of the rotation. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
So, but, I have no idea what to expect with this one. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. As many people have pointed out, Alpine Peaks has some problems in skirmish, has some problems in assault. I might be being nice about that, but Alpine Peaks Conquest is a lot of fun. If you ever get Alpine Peaks on a little game mode voting mini game that everyone likes to play, vote Conquest. It's the way to go.
And congratulations to Selith and our own Ricky Tikitavi for winning some more game codes. Make sure you guys follow my channel, and I'll send those over to you. Give it to someone else. All right, Selith. Let's Let's give it to someone else. J35. Congratulations.
That is the second Marine mech. Ricky is the second Marine mech to win a premium time code here. I want to know when my premium time code shows up. Yeah.
That's funny. Alright, so let's see if I got my invite back in yet. I have not gotten that yet. I'm waiting to get
seeing this in
back
chat when we do the events and the giveaways, you just have to talk in chat. So for anyone who's not sure how that works.
10 minutes. Yep. Gotta say something.
Within the last 10 minutes.
Which I think is easier than the whole everybody type exclamation point raffle that we were doing for MRBC and stuff. I just kind of like being like, oh, who won? You know, if they've been talking, they're here. It's not like they're just idling. So that works. So yeah, I'm just watching the replay here as they draw to a close. They did a good job killing those quick draws and stuff, thinning it out a little bit, but like I said, they were very damaged right off the bat, and it didn't take much to finish them off. It's cool that Raven ended up getting that XL Thunderbolt down, though. That was good.
Yeah,
he focused that shoulder, and that was the right thing to do. Like I said, I can't fault him for having an XL engine necessarily, because I'm sure there's a purpose to that, and he can do something with it. And it could have very well just been an experimentation or something like that, but that shoulder was open, and T-Fun did a very good job focusing that shoulder and taking him out. Still waiting for my invite. Are they in lobby or?
Actually destroyed the lobby, so I guess we're making another one. So
okay,
we'll have to see how that works out.
Good to know. Let's take a look into chat here. 12 Dire Stars versus 12 Dire Stars would just come down to which team shot first. Yeah. Which team shot first and aimed correctly, I guess, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Han shot first. 4 Atlas, 4 Whale, 4 Crab. I'd be fine for that. See Tolson talking in chat. This is a unregulated drop. 12v12, any mech, any tonnage.
Conquest, Alpine Peaks.
Like 12 Highlander 2C Lerms. Hey man, I'm all about the Highlanders. I used to love those things back in the day. I frankly still kind of play them sometimes, but now that you just kind of hover around on the ground and make a lot of noise, it's not maybe as fun as it used to be, but I'll still bring them out every once in a while. 12 ER laser Locust 1Vs. Now that would take a very long time.
Just still waiting for my lobby invite. So, yeah, he took out that Thunderbolt, and then the time runs out. And that's that. And the game crashes. Let's not forget that. That's
a feature.
That's a feature. Let's see this. Oh, bam! There it goes. It was right when the scoreboard was about to come up. So let's switch that back over to the game.
Oh, here's a good suggestion. We should do 12v12 Urbies.
Oh, Jesus.
I'd be down with that.
Goodness gracious.
12v12. Put a Gauss. Can you fit a Gauss rifle on an Urbie? I don't even know. I don't own one, but that would be kind of funny.
I don't even know, man. That would be freaking weird. So
yeah,
once
someone
again,
in chat, tell me if you could put a Gauss rifle on an Urbie. Educate me, please.
I bought the Urbies and haven't even leveled them yet. I should probably do that. Just
You're
out of principle.
disgrace.
I am a disgrace. I know.
Yeah.
So, a couple quick things. We will be giving away a couple mech bays after Drop 5, so stick around for that, definitely. Say stuff in chat, follow me, etc., etc. Also, I'm going to bring the team captains into a team speak and talk to them a little bit and see what they thought of the scrimmage and stuff, and if they had any final words and stuff like that. So I'll be streaming that as well. Feel free to come by and stick around and watch that as well. So, but thanks to everybody for coming out. Had a really good showing. I think it's been a pretty fantastic group. I think we were over 300 at one point.
Yeah,
so
I saw us
fantastic.
break 300 at one point. Pretty exciting.
That's awesome. And for anybody that's, since I am, since I'm chilling here and stuff, if anybody is new to the game, I have a lot of resources out there for you guys. So make sure you reach out to the community, get some answers and stuff. Reddit, Outreach HPG is definitely one of the better places to go. We have a lot of good guides on there and stuff like that. Feel free to reach out to any streamers and stuff. Everybody's very helpful and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in here. There's so many people here that know the game that they could definitely toss some information out to you guys and help you out.
Yeah, I really hope that any new players, if you're watching a stream, don't be afraid to ask questions. Even if you're in game in all chat, you might get someone who's feeling a little upset that day that might say something. But I think a lot of MechWarrior Online players would be very welcoming to help new players get better. From a perspective of someone who's been playing for a while, no one wants to play a game with someone who doesn't have any idea what's going on and how it works. But the way to fix that is to help people understand how to play the game, how to get better and things. And I think you'll find that a lot of the community understands that and is that way and wants to help you. So please, new players, don't be afraid to reach out, to ask questions in stream, in game, and please consider finding a unit to play with, joining a group. This game is so much more fun when you're playing with other people than when you're just YOLO dropping and having a hard time in solo queue.
Absolutely. Definitely. Couldn't stress that enough. This is a very team-based game, and when you get into comms with people, they have in-game comms, and sometimes you have the occasional guy that takes command, and you noticeably see a difference when somebody does that. So, okay. Yeah, so you noticeably see the difference, and just take that times like 100 when you get into an actual team speak with a bunch of guys. The comms are definitely there, and everybody's playing hard and stuff like that. So that's been fantastic. The last year that I spent with my team playing competitively and stuff like that, it's been awesome. Couldn't be happier. So definitely suggest that everybody should consider doing that.
All right, I need to interrupt with breaking news. Chat is now telling me you can put a Gauss rifle on an RV.
Man.
You could it looks like we're seeing you can put a Gauss rifle, an ERPPC, and a half a ton of ammo. This
and
sounds
an ERPPC?
Like a
That's
perfect
mind-blowing.
12v12 Alpine mech.
Oh, man. Oh, you
like
probably
it.
have to bring the standard 60, though, huh?
I like it. I think it's worth
Run
it.
slower than a direwolf, but with a Gauss
Take all
rifle
the armor
and a
off.
PVC.
Put a Gauss rifle
Who
on your
needs
RV.
armor anyways, right? Put all the armor in the back so you shoot and then twist
And
180
spin
degrees.
360, yeah.
Goodness gracious, that would be something else. But you know what? Drop 5 with unlimited tonnage. You guys can do whatever the hell you want. We'll just watch and enjoy it. And I just got my lobby invite. Popping in there now. Awesome. Looks like we are going to be getting started shortly. SJR is just completing their filling of the lobby, and then we'll be seeing 228 coming in shortly. Ready for the 12v12 Gauss Irbies now.
Yep. I'm calling it. That's what we're going to need.
Excellent, excellent. So, sorry for the delay, everybody. We'll be getting started shortly. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to give away a couple more premium time codes just because I can. You can't
You
stop
have
me.
the power. Can't tell me what to do. Alright, that's terrible. Right.
Okay, well, Ryam, and Siri. Congratulations for your 1-day premium time codes.
I like this concept of having the stream on a delay, but putting it in chat, before the delay, so they have no idea what they won.
It's just like random. It's just like, here's some stuff.
You
Shoving
win.
it down
Congratulations.
Your throat. That means Siri has to play.
We are now forcing you to play for an entire day straight.
Oh,
That's
boy.
what that is. That's what you've won.
That's better than anything you could have won, man.
Yeah. We have talked to all of your professors. We've said you cannot go to class. You must play MechWarrior Online for 24 hours straight now.
SJR has said that the Gauss Urbies is too OP and they want to play fair. Damn. I was looking forward to that. Alright, bring on the Dire Stars. That'd be funny if SJR brought Dire Stars and and 228 didn't, and it's like, surprise!
Yeah.
Wow! I'm just a sneak peek here looking at 228's tonnages. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. This ought to be good.
Would that
12
be
events.
like 800-ton mechs and 4 50-ton mechs or something like that? Oh my goodness.
Maybe. Think you could maybe push it a little further?
They didn't bring 1,200 tons, so we'll give them that. But if nothing changes, 228 has the tonnage advantage over SJR. We'll see what that does. It's not 12 direwolves. Oh boy.
And this ought to be good.
They needed a couple lights to cap points, but the rest are direwolves. Holy crap. Let's bring that tab back down here. So everybody's just readying up, and then we'll be heading in. This is going to be like opening a Christmas present, looking at what mechs each team brought. I have no idea what to expect here.
Now I'm seeing a report that the ER-Peep Gauss and a half-ton ammo Irby apparently means that you get 0 armor, which only seems to increase the attractiveness of such a build. It seems extremely viable.
We'll have to suggest that to the next teams that play for our exhibition series to do that mech. It's the new meta, guys. The new meta.
Yeah, we've actually confirmed now that all competitive teams have an agreement not to run 12v12 Gauss Peep Irbies because it's too overpowered.
Cool. I'm just arranging the little post-game thing. We're gonna all meet up and do our thing. So SJR is all ready. We're just waiting on 228 to finish up. Well, who knows? There's 4 guys unready. They could easily switch their mechs into. Well, no, I guess that. Well, no. They could all switch to direwolves, basically.
And to Irbies.
Yeah, well, that too. Everybody could switch to Irbies. We still have time. Oh boy. So we will be getting started in just a second here. I keep saying that, but they're not clicking the frickin' ready button. Come on! Click it! Click the ready button! Beef. I'm looking at you, Beef.
I think at this point I will be disappointed if the Beef's in anything other than a Dire Star.
Your expectations are set.
Yeah,
so well.
I've my expectations have been slowly climbing as we've been waiting for this match, to the point where anything else is just going to be a massive disappointment.
So yeah, season 7 MRBC is starting up in February. Looking forward to that.
Sign up.
They
It's
said
exciting.
that they wanted to do the $100,000 tournament sometime Q1, so I guess they have till March to meet that deadline. NBT, I think, starting up in February, maybe late January. That'll be pretty cool. I don't know if they're going to do a Arhad soon. Maybe 4 before Arhad. That'd be pretty sweet. I might get me into some of that. Phase 3, Q3? Because I think
Something
I
like
might
that.
actually start playing CW with Phase 3. We'll see.
That seems like a bad idea.
Why? I mean, it's supposed to actually give you like reasons to fight over planets and stuff. I guess we'll see with the.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Okay. Let me be honest. Some people do enjoy CW. I know a lot of people play CW and not public queue. Personally, I'm not a CW fan, but I understand that some people do enjoy it.
My
so
biggest beef with the CW
hopefully it
maps
becomes
is,
even better.
It's other people have shared this as well. Is that the maps are built to funnel you through choke points? And
Yeah, I can see that from an attack and a defense perspective. I mean, you're not going to you're not going to set up a base to defend from in the middle of an open plain. You're going to put
True.
it kind of like in some mountain range where there's only like one valley to get to, sort of thing.
True.
You know that from the terms of how they set it up, so it's a base, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. And
all right, here we go.
that's just not the type of gameplay I like to play. Shooting through a little hole at each other, but that's fine. We'll see what the new phase brings to the table. So, Alpine Peaks Conquest, unlimited tonnage. Let's take a look at what both teams are bringing to the table. I'm seeing Stalker, Direwolf so far. Let's click all the buttons.
I'm instantly disappointed. I do not see Urban Mechs.
Dual Gauss, Dual ER Large Dire, Dual Gauss, ER Medium, Large Pulse Dire, ER Large Stalker, ER Large Stalker. So we got some long range to work with here.
Oh yes.
No
I don't
Dire
think
Stars.
I've seen a different weapon other than ER Large. Here we go, Direwolf, and it's a dual Gauss, dual Large Pulse, and triple ER Medium.
Two
the
awesome
older
8Rs. And an Atlas?
And these are Lerm awesomes.
What?
These are LRM 15 and Tag awesomes.
And they have themselves
We have-
some ECM too. That's crazy. They got the DDC.
Wow. The other Direwolf is
What's the build in the
3
DDC?
large lasers and 2 Gauss.
Tag and Lerm DDC. Let's do it.
Oh,
All right.
man.
This is a rehash of the Meta versus LRMs. Although, what's SJR bringing? Cicada, Stalker 4M.
All ER larges on SJR for the most part. Looks
So,
like they just went pure.
ER larges versus Lerms. Did they bring any ECM is the question. I don't see any ECM
I don't see any
whatsoever.
ECM.
Uh-oh.
Looks like there's some initial trades coming from the dual Gauss Direwolf for 228. They are kind of moving towards Theta again. Theta's the place to be. Apparently, that's the hot spot. And we've got a little bit of kind of looks like 2 battles going on here. Some closer to Sigma and closer to Kappa. There's kind of 2 separate engagements as teams are kind of moving up, trying to find the ideal positions. I'm waiting to see those Lerms start flying. See how SJR responds to that.
So SJR is moving up and taking the high ground and starting to get their shots down on main body of 228. I don't think they've shown their hands that they got Lerms just yet. Oh, here we go. DDC's
There they
launching
go.
a couple. Oh, what is he going to do? He's going to dodge him? No, he's going to take him to the face.
He's going to take him.
I don't even know, man. Boom, boom, boom. Got those LRMs in there. And the whole meta has changed. So we do have
Suddenly
some
the whole world's
crossfire
been
going
turned
there.
upside down. We're not sure what's going on here anymore.
I don't even know, man. But in terms of percentages, I would say so far, relatively even.
Yeah, I'd say it's fairly even across the board here. The beef and the direwolf looks to be the most damaged, but it's not anything too bad so far, I think.
SJR is finding some pretty solid angles here so far. Just
and there goes the
lanes.
Lerms going after this.
They're
like
hitting the quick draw down to 81%, and they're starting to move their big boys up on this left. Man, there comes the Lerms.
Forcing those guys back off the corner. They are using them essentially as cover from some of these ranged mechs. And that Cicada in the backfield is getting pounded right now.
It's any time one of these mechs gets Lerms on him, he essentially either has to eat them or back up for an extended period of time. So they're suppressing slightly, but one of the 228 mechs has gone down. One of the direwolves did go down. So it was
another direwolf just lost his torso. It looks like Defunct just went down in his direwolf, and SJR is able to focus these mechs, and they're just not 228's not getting the damage that they want out of those Lerms right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is yet another example of just that direct fire. Otherwise, shit like this happens where it just falls short. You know, the direct fire just trumps it so much
right now.
And the spread of the damage too is just so huge that you're not coring anything out. And the 228 mechs are starting to get cored down, but you know what? It was just a see what happens kind of match, and 228 tried something new. And
another stalker goes down for 228. This is just not going to be pretty, I think.
Yeah.
There goes another direwolf, another 100 tons off the field.
So really this comes down to superior positioning by SJR. 228 kind of moved up that gut instead of sticking with the higher mountains, but they were kind of forced by the SJR mechs that were up on the high hill there. They were forced to kind of move down this way. And unfortunately then 228 moved up and took that opportunity to just begin mauling them to death from their high perches. So I don't think anybody's surprised by the outcome of this one. The Lerms just did not provide what, I can't say what they hoped they would do, but the lack of direct fire did not help them very much at all. I think if they brought ER large mechs or something like that, it would have done quite a bit more.
Yep, down goes
eat those awesome under 180 meter LRMs. Bouncing off of his mech.
And now we've got two badly damaged Ravens, the only ones left. Let's see if they can even get a kill out of this.
They might be able to take down that other Raven. We'll see.
Yeah, that might be their best bet at this point.
But it was fun to watch. It was certainly
funny to watch. Yeah,
you don't get to see something like that every day. A DDC Atlas with LRMs and a couple of awesomes. But there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give both teams a win for that one because that was just
the enjoyment factor.
That was just awesome as hell to watch.
And no Dire Stars and no Urbies. I don't know if I can give a win to either team. I mean, sure, SJR killed all the mechs without losing any, but does it really count?
Zuff pulled 387 in his Lerm. Awesome, man. New meta. It was everybody else's fault. That's it. It's everybody else's fault for that loss. But that was fun. It's a good way to end. End on a laugh. That was fun. But all right. Well, that concludes the first match of the New Year in the Inner Sphere exhibition series. We're gonna try and pull a couple of the team leaders here into a channel and just have a quick chat with them. But thanks everybody for coming by and watching and stuff. Feel free to stick around to see what the two team captains have to say. Let's see if I can see where they're dragging me here.
Assuming we're off?
No. We are going to do the interview on stream.
Oh, man.
Do you have 228's TeamSpeak?
No, I gotta get their address.
Here, let me get it for you. Oh, I don't remember the password. Let me toss this over to you.
Why don't they just put it on chat for all 300 people to see?
Yeah, let's do that.
You were moved to recording studio by Deadfire.
I was moved to recording studio by Deadfire.
And let me get that server password from you and I'll get in there.
Just trying to get that super quick. Oh, I gotta give the mech bays away too.
Your channel.
I'll give the mech bays away. I'm gonna do the mech bay giveaway right now. So, if you're chatting, awesome.
Deadfire left your channel.
Yeah, don't everybody leave yet.
Hey Panic, can you type me the TeamSpeak password so I can get MD in here? Okay. Yeah, I thought it was that, but I forgot. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming by, guys. One note, we are still live, so you are being broadcast to the world, to almost 300 people. So a lot of people got to watch this. I thought it was a fun little scrimmage there, and definitely thank you guys for making a good show. I thought it was fun to watch, and I think the consensus is that everybody was interested and excited about what they got to see, and I think it was a good way to start things off. So thank you to both of you guys for taking time out of your night to work with me on building this, and
00 was moved to your
playing
channel
and letting us watch and stuff like that. So definitely thanks to you two. So how did you think that went? Panic, like, what did you think about this scrim? Did you learn anything? Are you gonna use awesomes in your meta now?
No, I was laughing so hard I was crying a minute ago because we decided to take that at the last minute.
That was pretty great to watch, I gotta say. That and the DDC with Lerms, that was
really
delicious.
It was really stupid. Versenix has to leave the unit and uninstall since he ran that, but it's okay.
Did you make him run it?
Can't comment on that.
Oh, okay, cool. But no, that was definitely some sweet stuff. But obviously, SJR got that high ground and was able to just lay it down on you guys. And unfortunately, but you know what? Your Lerms did some damage on the scoreboard, man. They were able to toss out some shots there.
Let me go ahead and make sure no one entertains the idea that was serious.
No, and I made sure to lay that out there too.
But the unlimited class is kind of dumb in the first place, since there is a deck science to it, but it kind of feels wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea of an unlimited weight class, I don't know, it's kind of a joke, I think, in my opinion, but it's whatever. This scrim was mainly about feeling out these some of the new mechs that have come up and deciding whether the some of those older chassis that were viable at one point in time were going to continue to be viable in the near future, or whether we needed to rethink a lot of the decks. And from that perspective, it's been a huge success for us, just setting us up for moving forward and getting a lot of the guys that were maybe had get like shit for this, but like maybe had some old habits or whatever, and just go ahead and shake it out and make it make sure we get everyone on the same page as to what the effective mechs and builds are currently. Map positioning really, I don't know if it'll change all that much. The same areas seem to be effective, but just again with different mechs in the mix.
Well, not only that, but you guys are coming off a holiday, and
I'm curious. It looked like throughout the night that you guys 228 tended to run a few more clan mechs than what we were seeing out of SJR. I don't know how you feel that measured up with some of the changes. We know that IS got a lot of structure, quirk buffs, those sort of things, and the clan mechs sort of got left behind. How'd you feel that Was that something that maybe you'll consider changing, or did you feel that really was kind of business as usual?
No, we ran a lot of the new Intersphere mechs in practices and scrimmages. Tonight we just had, I think when we built these decks, we just had, either guys that were, kind of catching up from the holidays and hadn't quite finished mastering or playing the chassis that we will need. And so instead of, I guess, I don't know how you look at that, but instead of running, a good way of finding out whether something is going to function or not is, instead of running the new thing and seeing whether it works or not, run the old thing and see if you need to change. So we took a lot of decks that we would have run in, that last season of MRBC and whatever, and we kind of modified those 8-man decks to fit the 12-man field, and we reasonably sure we're probably going to change a lot of those mechs. Not for the, maybe not entirely for structure purposes, but still I felt that our decks were, we pretty much lost, we lost most of the, how many matches did we play? 5. We lost Canyon, and we lost River City in the Mech Lab, we thought. Canyon was a little bit of positioning and a bad movement call, but we lost a lot of those, or had a lot of difficulties due to the Mech Lab in this case.
And you guys, that's the best thing about this, though, is that you guys are going to be able to come away, probably, I would say anyways, coming from behind there and having to figure out what's not working right. I feel like you guys are going to really come away with quite a bit from this scrimmage, maybe even more than SJR might, because it's easier to look at what went wrong than it is to say, okay, what did we do right, and can we replicate that again in the future?
Yeah, you always learn more from a loss than a victory. The loss is just another way of telling you that whatever you were doing was wrong, and so you just reevaluate, you build it again. We'll try it again, for sure.
So with that said, Magician, what do you feel went right here? I'm assuming you guys got a lot of your good pilots from back in the day and stuff to come back and are starting to get a good rapport with them and get them up to speed and stuff like that. Has that played a major part in this?
Well, I guess there's kind of almost 2 questions in that. I'll just look with players. This is 12s, and we've gotten Jaeger, he's coming back somewhat, and then Pi started coming back the other day. So that was nice additions, and we've picked up a few new recruits who have all been fitting in well and understanding what we're doing, and I think they've helped us out a lot. But when it comes to what was going well, I think a lot of for us, the biggest thing I hammer on is the communication, how we're working as a team, and I felt like a lot of times that at least even if we weren't playing well or we were losing a situation or something like that, we were generally working well together, so that went in our favor. But yeah, the Mech Lab stuff, that's where I was scared. I was scared coming in about that, because I'm like, you could lose this so easily in the Mech Lab if you choose the wrong end of something, because it's theory. Right now it's theory. It's 12v12, first time we've done that in any real match since the meta change. So you have theories going, you think something might work, but you don't really know until you get in there. A lot of these drops are heavier, so we brawled on Caustic, but there wasn't really that opportunity that much to be a brawling. But that doesn't mean SRMs and stuff like that aren't part of the meta, medium laser 1Xs and all that stuff. They're definitely a part of it, but when you get to these heavier tonnages, maybe they just don't fit in.
It'd have been nice to see a lighter tonnage drop, I think.
Sure, yeah. Definitely. And I might, for the next one, throw one of those in there. And we wanted to keep things a little bit more even and stuff, but I do see, having watched it now, that a lighter drop would definitely mix things up a little bit. Do you guys feel that Conquest, was it good? Do you think it added flavor? Was it complicated? What do you think about it from just playing it just now?
We haven't played 12's Conquest since Merrick Civil War crashed. Fuck you, Tony. It was a good league. But that's one of our favorite game modes, and not because the common misconception I feel is that people kind of complain about you're going cap and whatever, and that's not a real victory. But for those people, it's like, no, you're just bad, because Conquest is planning for all right, do we need to get a 3-cap somewhere, like put cap pressure on these guys to get them out of a camping position where they can't just sit there, achieve a position on the map which is better than all others, which, may be some fault of the current map design, is that on a lot of these maps there is such a position that's just like, you go there, you win the game if you have this deck in the story. So I feel that Conquest allows you at least an option of, if they go there, if they camp, if they do something like that, then we can take these cap points and we can force them out of that. They have to make a decision. So I feel like it adds a little bit more dynamic, it makes the game a little bit more dynamic, and to me that's fun. It's not only is it more complicated and actually harder to achieve victory on Conquest, sometimes it just turns into a scrim anyway, and you end up killing another team 12-0. Most of the time it does anyway, so you don't lose. I don't think you're ever lacking for action, but I think it does allow teams and planners to be a little bit more creative, have a little bit more fun trying to force the enemy team around. But that's just my take.
Yeah, I personally have a love-hate relationship with Conquest.
I kind of want to tie into that, though. Sorry, Magician.
Go ahead.
Just related to Conquest, I think, and this will be a good question for you. It seemed like every match SJR went for Theta. Was that we're going for Theta because we want to control, I think one way I've been describing it on the stream was a swing cap point. You got 2 cap points usually on your side, 2 cap points on the other side, 1 in the middle, so that's the swing cap point. Was that to try and control the cap points, or was that this is just the better terrain, or it's in the middle of the map so it allows us to respond better? What was the thinking for that, or was it just kind of something that happened?
I'd have to think about each map individually, but a lot of it comes down to not wanting to have to retake Theta. I think it's better sometimes to just get it outright and then be in a position to hold Theta than it is to try to recapture Theta or try to hit those wings. Obviously on Caustic we had SRM, so we were going to go Theta. That's the only real move for us. Not knowing what they were going to take, but that was really the only move. It's another example. I was cautious about on Canyon because we didn't know what they had. If they came out with Brawling Mechs or SRMs or something and stormed Theta, we'd have problems. So we kind of looked, but then when it was open, we just took it. But also having the rest of your team support that capture helps because that's your main move at the start. On River City, for example, we didn't get cap at the start because it's you don't need that point. You can get it later. The points aren't that important at the start. What's important is getting in a good position. So.
I gotta ask Panic, on River City, you guys chose the map side. Were you going for anything in specifically on that side of the map? Did you have a plan for that, or I guess what I want to get in your head as to what you guys were thinking on that one, and what went wrong or whatever.
That game was 90% Mech Lab loss, but as far as the side choice, they played phenomenally. They moved in the right place and whatnot, and they really got, basically killed us. But to be honest, we had zero chance to begin with. We had opted for, and we opted for the old style. We were like, we'll just take some mid-range stuff and see what happens. In the scrims, in the practices, it seemed to work well, semi-well, and it was because, when you're scrimming your own team, you're not playing, SJR or whoever you're going to show up who's going to show up in the match. So it's highly variable as to what the hell is going to happen. And most of the time, the teams we've been scrimming or internal scrims, the other team had been dynamic and had some sort of a little bit lighter or a little bit different drop deck. And so the LPLs, Gauss is working just fine. The LPLs, MLs, or whatever we had on the Timberwolves is working just fine to allow us to control a little bit of the map. I think a lot of the loss there was contributed to the fact that, they showed up and had massive amounts of range on us. At least, most of their mechs had standard larges and, intersphere court stuff that could hit you and touch you from all the way across the river. Whereas we up in Upper City had no chance of hitting them. So it's just kind of what the fuck are we going to do? Go down to the right or left or try to shift somewhere or move, and we try to push. But since it wasn't something that, one of our big downfalls with our team or one of our biggest pitfalls has always been a lack of practice in certain situations, and that was one of the ones that we hadn't seen at least hadn't seen very often, was a team from that side shifting gardens with a laser deck as opposed to like a very close range deck. So I don't think we were quite prepared for dealing with that. But again, it would have been entirely different had we had the range to trade with them from across the river. It's just one of those things that you can play the well, if this happened then that would happen, or we take this and that. You can play that game all day, but it's not going to help you. In the end, what I think lost us the game was their deck choice. Basically forced us to. We had 4 lights. We could cap Theta at the beginning. We could pretty much contest any point we wanted to, far away from their group. But since they all had large, long-range lasers or whatever on their heavier stuff, it was really difficult for us to actually move. They pinned down the whole map pretty effectively. So we have to applaud them for that. I'll probably adapt a lot of that into our, strategies in the matches to come if it seems to work pretty consistently.
Awesome. Well, I guess, did you guys have any final thoughts? I mean, and how did you think it went? Do you like seeing this kind of thing? Do you want to see more of it? Do you think it was valuable to you? Do you think, I guess, the community benefited from seeing something like this? I mean, it's a lot of questions, but feel free to answer any of them.
Oh, I'll chime in, I guess. I thought the viewership was pretty incredible. I have like 300 people for this, because this was not, this wasn't like a finals of some tournament or some league like huge match. It was just like, a couple teams getting together and playing a more intense scrim, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure was probably there a little bit, just kind of looming over you a little bit, having that many people watching this. I mean, you weren't playing for anything, but with this many people watching, you can't just be like, all RBs necessarily. Although the Lerms were pretty funny.
The only thing it changes is that every once in a while, like, one of my guys will post up some comment from some viewer and we'll be like, haha, fuck that guy, or yeah, he's probably right, maybe we'll do that next time, or whatever. That's literally the only thing that changes, is people posting comments from like viewers or you guys in the chat, and we're talking about it the whole time. But no, it's this is just a peek into like what we do pretty normally. I think we usually call up either SJR or EMP or somebody. We'll go out and we'll go out and get our ass beat a couple times and then change our deck around, and hopefully when it comes to game time, when we're playing for something, we put up. So it's just a peek, and like you said, it's a more energetic or a more competitive it's just a casted scrim, I guess. We played it pretty seriously. We built our decks so we can advance, and some of them we tweaked and rebuilt, like 2 nights ago or a night ago, but whatever. It's just the way it goes. And then theory crafted and talked about it, and then showed up and butted heads for a second. And we'll probably do it again in a week, right? Something like that.
Cool.
Maybe if not SJR, then someone else.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to find a couple more teams that are going to want to do this, and we'll showcase those guys as well. And hopefully they can get the same benefit out of it that you guys got. And gotta say, mad props, of course, to PGI and to NGNG for both doing a really good job pitching my stream. I extremely appreciate it. I didn't expect that, and that was a pleasant surprise. From giving me a host to posting it up on Facebook, Twitter, on their homepage. I mean, that was fantastic. And hopefully the pregame show that we had, hopefully that discussion, makes some people think, and maybe we get some value out of that and stuff. But once again, to you two guys, thank you very much for allowing us to, peek in at your scrim and watch, and get some enjoyment out of that. And, of course, coming in and talking about it afterwards. So I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate Magician for putting up the time to plan all this stuff out for his team, and you guys for showing up to actually publicize and cast it. That takes a lot of work, I know, so.
I definitely enjoyed it.
Appreciate you guys doing that, so.
Cool. And, of course, I think we'll all be looking forward to the next season. Hey, Madge, are you going to do Arhad 4v4 at all? Or is Arhad coming back at all?
Yeah, I mean, my plans was to start 8v8 and 4v4, but it's kind of been... Alright, my dog's probably hearing my dog in the background. It's been put on hold, only because there's so much planning to be going on by a bunch of other people, so I'm like, I don't know how much I want to if I want to get going now or wait. So we'll see.
Cool. Well, we'll all be looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll see a post up and stuff. It's always good to have a lot of good choices and stuff for what we want to do and everything. But I think comp is here and it's strong, and we're all looking forward to upcoming seasons and tournaments and stuff. So, all right. Well, that's gonna be it for us then. We're gonna call it a night. Hopefully, all of you guys enjoyed the show. And definitely, if you have any feedback, feel free to toss that our way so we can just improve on this, make it better. And definitely give your props to these guys for coming out and making a good showing. But we're going to head out, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
I need another heavy. I've got TB and a quick draw.
I want to get fairly tight to it. Now, anybody who's going to be working range, I'm going to need you to fade right on this. And when anybody's running short, is going to stay towards the top of the call there if we're going to come out.
I have you in the Griff. Griffin.
Sounds good. Well, that's the thing. We got to get to brawling range, so I may be moving us, right up to the hoop if we have to.
Wolverine nach Charlie 4.
That's fine, chill the out, man. That's fine, it's just a 5-starter.
Komm, Leute, redet miteinander.
15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. Guys, we're winning. We're winning, guys. 3, 2, 1.
Charlie Jar, CT, yellow. Okay, go to Charlie, see if we can get it.
There. To your left, there's there. Sorry, shit. So, jetzt guys, hinter die Indie-Pockens.
Mediums be prepared to pull back E40 towards the E5 border. On my mark.
Left side, come on! Like now, I need strikes on empty barrels. Wire our strikes up. Die Hauptgruppe rechts, Uferlinie.
They have 3 mechs sitting on the left side when you pass over.
Overheating is bad. Both legs on the Griffin. Hit the Griffin. Sorry about that. That was such a
That's right. I'm gonna spawn Lance, you guys in Charlie, Lance, you guys in Bravo. That's B2C1.
This third drop is 2 lights, 2 mediums, 2 heavies, 2 assaults.
Jetzt in die Breite, zieht euch in die Breite.
Lights, watch our backs. We're gonna about base and take up position in Bravo 6.
Kurzaufschaltung Delta 4, 3 Stück, 2 Mediums, ein Light, wie ich es richtig gesehen habe.
Make a firing line.
C4 Tactical Hill, boys.
Fox.
Laufen unter ECM, hab 2 durchlaufen, 10 Bravo 4.
And get ready to hit people coming from our right.
Charlie on the left, Charlie, Hellbringer on the left.
Okay, let's group up towards the left. We're gonna press through Bravo 3 to Bravo 4. I think they're kind of spread out.
Check yourselves, make sure you've got, UAV cool shot.
Hey, here they come, they're pushing hard, guys.
Decro. Tez on.
Go. Oh, got a contact here, Bravo 3.
Nice, Marshall. I'm on Delta Griffin.
We'll get cross it then, get in their face.
They got a highlighter, they just pushed up on Theta. We need help on Theta. Up on Theta.
Yep, that's the noise. Go. Let's finish this.
Full pressure, guys, full pressure. They're down low. They're down low in Charlie 3. Get the f***ing arm, Jackson.
Jackson, cool shot.
Cough. I got him.
Okay, go, B3, go.
Echo, go. Get over their mediums, guys. Get Echo Stormcrow.
God, I suck as a pilot, but thank I packed my skill. I'm sorry that you died, sweet girls, but we will send a reasonably nice letter to your family.